Please stand, and maybe have a reading of the, I apologize. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, may we have a reading of the statement.
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the public and the press on June 14th and May 3rd, 2022, and was posted at the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri. Councilmember Fury.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
Councilmember Shortway.
Here.
Council President Rizzuto.
Here. This evening, we have a presentation, Healthy Town Award. Hi.
For those of you, so I wanted to say thank you so much to Mayor Burrell and the council for having me here today. My name is Katie Basaha. I am a Community Health and Policy Associate for the Mayor's Wellness Campaign through the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute. For those of you who are not familiar with the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, it's a statewide community health initiative that works to empower community leaders with tools and strategies to improve the health and wellness of our community. So I'm honored to be here today to present Mayor Burrell as well as the Mayor's Wellness Campaign team with our 2021 Healthy Town to Watch designation. So the township's ability to respond to changing needs of residents throughout the pandemic led to innovative programming that has been a pillar of your community. So programs like the community farmers market.
Just stand over here.
Apologies.
Maybe so our.
Sorry.
There you go. Yeah.
My bad. So programs including farmers markets, group hiking events, curbside pickup for older adults to access nutrition services, and partnerships like those that you have with Vernon Cares. So I do want to thank both Mayor Burrell and the team for their dedication to this work, as well as congratulating them on the 2021 Healthy Town to Watch Award. I look forward to continuing working with you and seeing you as a healthy town this upcoming year.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so
Mayor
very much.
Burrell.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody.
I'd like to say that a town is really not a healthy town unless the council and the mayor works together. So I really would love to thank the previous council for working close with me and the Mayor's Wellness Campaign to win this award for 2021. And quite frankly, I'm very optimistic about us winning again for 2022, if not higher, because the current council and we are making progress towards working on a lot of things together. And that's all we need to do just to make constant movement. And I'm really very optimistic about this, that we earned this year a Healthy Town to Watch. The highest award is a healthy town. So that's the one that we want to get to next. So I'd like to thank my council members and thank you for coming here to do this. And I'll have some more comments in my mayor's comments about this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have there's a proclamation this evening for Sussex County Pride. Mr. Lynch, would you please be so kind as to read it?
Whereas the Township of Vernon has a diverse lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus community. And I am sorry if I say that wrong because I'm old-fashioned and I don't know all the lingo yet. But the community is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for all people in the community. And whereas many of the residents, visitors, and business owners within the Township of Vernon who contribute to the enrichment of our community are part of the LGBTQ plus community. And whereas June has become a symbolic month in which the LGBTQ plus community and its supporters come together in various celebrations of pride, commemorate the 1969 Stonewall riots. And whereas events are held annually to recognize and celebrate the diversity of the community. And whereas by protecting the rights of every individual, we enhance the value of our entire society. Now therefore, the mayor and the council do hereby proclaim June 2022 as Pride Month here in Vernon Township. Howard Burrell, Mayor, Patrick Guzzuto, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Um, We have a couple of discussion items. A few discussion items I'd like to move on. Number one, Mr. Fury, you asked that the council consider a discussion item on the salary of the mayor. Perhaps you'd like to, since it was your request, would you like to make comment on it initially?
Sure. Thank you very much, Pat. Yeah, the reason why I wanted to, and I thank you for bringing it up as a discussion item. I wanted to start a discussion of the current mayor's salary. As I don't know if people know, in the past, it was years ago, I was part of a group for the town government and the changing government, where my position years ago, it was probably 10 years, maybe longer. What I was in favor of I was in favor of keeping the current form of government, where we had a strong council and weak mayor. We overwhelmingly that was voted. 70% of the township residents voted for the change in government, and at the time, we accepted it as it was, but that's what we were given. So one of the reasons why, fast forward to today, is the reason why I want to bring this as a discussion item. It is my position, or I believe, that in order for this position may be considered, well, it is considered part-time. In reality, I don't really believe in, even since we changed the government, we've had 3 mayors since the change of government. It is a full-time position, and it requires a lot of effort on the part of the mayor. So in reality, it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job where a mayor is responsible for managing, a lot of employees and a $30 million budget. The reason why I would want to, start the discussion and possibly consider increasing the mayor's salary is to, the purpose of it is to, in the future, if we were to keep this form of government and keep this the way we have it now, that we would want to attract really good candidates in order to want to be mayor, because of the responsibilities of the mayor. So that's the reason why I wanted to start the discussion. I don't really necessarily have a dollar amount in mind, but at least we should get the discussion started. So that was the real purpose of bringing this out. I do realize, and I know you mentioned this is in the middle of some bad, hard economic times, and I'm very aware of that. And to bring it up in this current economic environment, I'm perfectly aware of that being the issue. But if we are going to keep this form of government, then we have to have a very responsible person in that position, and really consider it a full-time job, and then pay that person commensurate to the amount of responsibility they have. So that's the reason I brought it up. I don't know how other people feel on the council. I'll just turn it over to other people and how they feel.
Anybody else like to comment? Mr. Shortway? You were
Yes.
there.
Absolutely. And I believe it was in the Sally Rinker lawsuit. The judge did not determine if it's full or part-time. However, the mayor may receive full-time benefits, meaning medical, dental, and eyeglass. Having been there, it was part of my campaign not to ask for a pay raise, and I didn't. We've been paying the mayor $30,000 since 2011. Although you may not be in the office for 40 hours a week, but it's pretty close. I know Mayor Burrell, I drive by at night and I see your car is still there at 6 and 7 o'clock at night. Really, the emails, the phone calls, it never stops. I didn't keep an accurate count, but I would assume in 4 years, it's probably 10 days off where I didn't have phone calls or emails to answer, or you have emergencies that you actually go on scenes when someone requests that you do so. The question is, because the town voters shot down 36,000, they shot down 70,000, and they shot down, I think it was a little above that, there was another raise in there 3 times. But really, $30,000 without a raise in 11 years is unreasonable, unfair. I know both Pat and Brian, back then on the record, you realized it also. So I think it's a good time to start the discussion, because you'll have another mayoral election in about 18 months, that what are we going to do? It's really not, it's not fair and it's not reasonable. The budget you're handling is approximately $28 million, is approximately, and I'm going off the top of my head, 115 employees. When there are lawsuits, you're going to get named in the lawsuits. I'm named in current lawsuits right now. So I think it's worth to raise it, how we're going to do it, how you're going to attach it without keeping politics involved. If you decide on a dollar amount sometime the next, say, year, perhaps then whatever the department heads get, then that attaches to the mayor's pay. In other words, say in 2023, the council decides the salary will be increased to 40,000, and the department heads then get 2%. You'd get whatever the department heads are getting. So it's just some thoughts to be fair and reasonable. I keep using those words. Those are the terms. You know, I didn't read the case before this. It's been some time I read it, but it really is a full-time job, and you don't assess it the full time by how many hours you spend in the office. It's nonstop. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Mr. Lynch?
I don't have any comments.
Okay.
Um,
Ms. Bucieri?
yeah, I do have one question. I don't know. I apologize for coming in late. I don't know if Mike already brought this up. Did you do any research, Mike, or have we done any research onto what mayor's salaries are for other townships with a similar form of government? And is Josh on the?
Listen, the comparatively, most of the full-time mayors are from cities, and they get paid fairly well. I don't have.
You don't have, okay, that's fine. I
I
just,
don't
I didn't know
have-
if you'd done that research.
I just
If
know
I
it's a
could
lot
interrupt,
more money than it
if
is.
I could just add, I think Parsipani's mayor, which is not a city, but it is larger than us. I think their daytime population goes to about 100,000 because of all the corporations, is somewhere back when I was mayor, 118, 120,000. You really don't see this form of government where the mayor is in the office every day, well, 5 days a week at least. You don't see it with towns our size.
Yeah.
I am sorry to interrupt, but I did remember that Parsippany is up over 100,000.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms.
I was just
Thank you,
curious.
Mr. Sherwood.
Thanks.
Pat, I just,
Make some-
considered, can I,
Sure, absolutely.
Natalie, are you?
Yeah, I might have something else, but
Oh,
you go,
it's
no,
okay.
you go ahead. I
Okay.
just think a minute.
I have to tell you, I'm very uncomfortable talking about this, and I'll tell you why. These are unreasonably stressful economic times right now. Starting the conversation is one thing, and I get what you're saying. I would much rather move towards changing our form of government back to the way it was, as opposed to having the strong mayor form of government. That's my opinion, and I didn't speak to anybody about it, but that's how I feel.
Yeah. Just to
I,
follow up on what Brian said, I agree with Brian. That's a reasonable point to make, is it's like, that's a reasonable alternative to raising the salary of the mayor, is start the whole process and change the form of government back to what it really should be. And what it should be is a weaker mayor and very, strong business administrator, business manager running the township. I agree with Brian that, that may be a better alternative than to go down the path of raising the salary. But you're going to have to do one or the other. Like, you cannot, in order to have a full-time mayor and run the town, you need to attract very highly qualified and dedicated people to do that job. And that's just the reality of it. It's just, and if you don't want to do that and you want to go back to the old form of government, then that whole process has to start, where the petition has to be started. It has to go to a referendum on a ballot, and it has to get voted on by the people. And that's, for order that to happen, that's a very time consuming process. And if anybody was, like, I was obviously involved with it, the petitions, the petitioners went out and got all the petitions, they got it passed, they put it on a referendum, and the people voted for it. And if you want to go down the path of doing that, then you have to go down that path. And I agree with Brian on that.
Thank you, Mr. Fury. Ms. Bashir.
Yeah, when I first saw that note about the discussion item, I definitely appreciate Mike's thoughts on it, but I too feel the same way that Mr. Lynch feels. It's a very difficult time. People are being pressed on every side to talk about a raise, that type of money issue. I too agree with considering going back to our other form of government. I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, if there's support for that in our township. And that's obviously a long, time-consuming process. I'm okay with having the conversation. I'm just not committing to support anything right now.
Thank you. Perhaps to close out the conversation, I cannot help but agree with my colleague, Mr. Lynch, that indeed these are very difficult times, and they're likely to get more difficult. Today was a remarkably bad day for many people looking at their 401ks, and hopefully things will get better. So for someone to come up and say, what shall we do in terms of a salary increase for a public official? I don't think public officials, regardless of what type of a job we're doing, good, bad, or indifferent, to be viewed in a very good light right now. It's just very difficult. And secondly, the issue of changing the government is perhaps a good opportunity to allow the community to assess this particular change that was made previously about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, and see if they're happy with the way things have gone. And if not, to move forward and to put in another form of government. The problem that you have with something like this is not necessarily the desire to do it, but the ability to go forward with the act of initiative, and then move to referendum. That particular phase requires people to go out and get signatures of a significant number based upon the total number who voted in the previous election. It's a long and arduous task, requires a lot of commitment. And the people that did it the last time are to be commended. I don't know if people are going to want to do that again. I don't believe that becomes the aegis of the council. And I think the council is given a particular form of government to serve under. And in fact, if it changes, then we will change with it. If not, then we continue forward. But I think it requires the initiative of the people to go ahead and make this change. So to that end, I can only say we can bring this up again at a later date. If someone would like to continue this discussion in the form of bringing it up as a motion, I would entertain it and we can move from there. But I just don't think that, my own opinion, that we're ready to move on something like this. And yet I agree with everything that Mr. Shortway said. I've served with 2 previous mayors, now 3. And each one of them has put a very, very large amount of time in terms of meetings, in terms of commitments, in terms of being available on a 24/7 basis. So it's not necessarily the amount of time, but unfortunately, it becomes the perception of the people of the township. And that's where we run into our problem. And I think that's the difficulty we face. So anybody else like to say something? I'd be glad to keep the
Yeah.
discussion going if you'd like to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, and I believe I'm certain, if it was to go to a change in government, it would have to be by petition only from the voters, that they would have to start the petition drive. And then in order to get it, like the council cannot vote to get this on a referendum. That's at least my understanding of the.
That's my understanding too, but I may be wrong. And if our attorney wishes to correct us, I'd be glad to, to accept the correction.
I think that's correct. This is an issue for the citizens.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, I echo your sentiment about the hours that a mayor puts in. Our current mayor, it is a job where you're always on call, as council member Shortway explained. So I didn't want to give the perception that I don't agree with that or diminish all the hard work that, the time and effort that the mayor puts in and that
Thank you.
position requires.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on, there is the issue of Northwoods at Vernon, it's resolution 154. And before we move into discussion on that in terms of trying to explain it, because it involves a sizable amount of money. Mr. Zelinski, would you care to comment on this initially to open the discussion?
Sure,
If not,
I'd be
glad to.
Yeah, I'd be happy to open the discussion on this, and then I think Councilmember Shortway and Administrator Volker can provide some additional background. So this resolution is on the agenda. Northwoods at Vernon, as members of the council and public may be familiar, was a condominium near Mountain Creek that had fallen into disrepair. It was owned by Northwoods at Vernon LLC. It had failed to repair and maintain the condominium association. As a result, the prior administration had sent the fire code official out there and levied fines against Northwoods at Vernon. The intent of the fire code official going there was to hopefully bring Northwoods into compliance, as well as have them repair the buildings and or demolish the buildings or do something to the buildings. Ultimately, Northwoods at Vernon did nothing, including not showing up at the municipal court proceedings to contest the fines that were levied by the fire code official. As a result, the township, we sought the maximum amount of fines, the maximum amount of interest, the maximum amount of penalties, again, to get Northwood's attention, to compel them to do something with the facility. Ultimately, the judge defaulted Northwoods and allowed a fine amount in the amount of $6 million. That fine has been out there for a couple of years now. Northwoods at Vernon has made no effort to pay that fine or to do anything. In the meantime, Mountain Creek has, or an affiliation of Mountain Creek has acquired Northwoods at Vernon, all of the units, and is in the process of acquiring the final unit. And they want to demolish the existing structures. They want to then begin some type of development. I don't know what that development is. I haven't been informed of it, but they do want to demolish the structures, which would abate the conditions, and then return the properties to the town's tax rolls. The one thing they're concerned about is being, tagged with the $6 million fine. So they've asked for a resolution from the council that the council will not pursue the new owners for the fines. Nothing in this resolution allows Northwoods at Vernon to escape any liability for what they have done and what they have failed to do. They remain liable for the fines. The one thing that did occur here is while the fines were issued by the court, they were never recorded as liens against the property. Nevertheless, Mountain Creek, or the new owners, are concerned that if they take over ownership, they may be responsible for that $6 million fine amount. And I would just further indicate that, if Mountain Creek ultimately doesn't conclude this purchase because they are afraid of liability for the $6 million fine, that may ultimately hinder any further purchasers from wanting to purchase the property. I think everyone's goal and objective here is to get the property cleaned up, get the conditions abated, get the structures demolished, and have the property returned to the town's tax rolls in a more beneficial manner. So what this resolution provides is just that the council will not seek to recoup the fines from the new owner of the property. Councilmember Shortway or Business Administrator Volker, is there anything further?
Yeah, I'll give you the history. I am going to repeat some of the things you said, Josh, but it really started a lot, got full force under my term as mayor. Northwoods is an 8-unit structure located at Route 94 North between Vernon Medical Arts Building and the Appalachian Hotel at Mountain Creek. It has been unoccupied for more than a decade and abandoned. As mayor, I undertook a concerted effort to crack down on absentee landlords, including Northwoods. I learned about Northwoods early in my mayoral term. On August 23rd, 2012, it was determined by the township to be in unsafe condition. It was ordered to be demolished by September 2012, or a $2,000 a week fine would be imposed. The owner was identified as Northwoods, as Josh correctly identified, at Vernon, address 3621 Route 94, second floor, Hamburg, New Jersey. This is the location of Crystal Springs Resort administrative offices. It's interesting because the following LLCs also have this address: Mountain Creek Resort, Inc., that's the old former Mountain Creek; Crystal Springs Development, Spa Crystal Springs Resort Club, Shinnenon, Vernon RE Holdings, Top of Vernon, HR2 Development, Northwoods, as we discussed, Appalachian and Mountain Creek Units 1 and 2, Lake Isle Corporation, Gene Mobile Hill, Northeast Vacations, Mobile Hill Resort Clubs, et cetera, et cetera. There's at least another half dozen more. The facility was also formally cited for imminent fire hazard on August 28th, 2015, with fines that accrued at the rate of $5,000 per day. It was alleged that Mayor Murata had planned to have a local contractor demolish the structure for $70,000 due to the hazardous condition of the structures. I could not locate any resolution, RFPs, bids, contracts, or any vote by the council supporting the demolition or any of these contracts or any paperwork involved. So I then physically inspected the development in 2016. I found trees were actually growing through the roof, windows and doors were broken, the grounds were littered with alcoholic beverage containers and other debris indicating recent unlawful presence. Northwoods was clearly an attractive nuisance jeopardizing the well-being and safety of anyone on the property. The township had actual notice of this hazard. The fire departments would not even use the premise for training due to the hazards. My concern is always the safety, and these structures had been deteriorating for years. Summonses were issued, but we could not serve anyone at the Route 94 location. They refused service. Our municipal judge placed a $6.35 million fine on the owner of the vacant Northwoods for failing to remedy fire code violations dating back more, at that time was 3 years, bringing its total fines to more than $7 million. Judge Devine issued the fine after previously fining the owner $642,000 on January 15th, 2019 for zoning and safety violations dating back more, at that time, 6 years. The fines were issued to the owner in absentia after multiple attempts to deliver violation notices failed. The listed owner of facility was a shell company, and all this was reported in the Herald News by the late Gene Mulvihill, had an address matching the Crystal Springs, as I previously said. The principal ownership of which passed on to the Mulvihill's children after his death in late 2012. Crystal Springs builder CEO Andrew Mulvihill told the New Jersey Herald he has no knowledge of who owns Northwoods. Mr. Mulvihill explained to the New Jersey Herald his father Gene had an investment over at Northwoods many, many years ago. Mr. Mulvihill stated he has nothing to do with it, and it's that simple. The Northwoods owner is unlikely to ever come forward, and the township is unlikely to ever receive a dime of the $7 million in fines. We'll never see any of it. No one's going to pop their head up and say, hey, that's the building's mine, because they're going to have to pay the $7 million, as Josh correctly stated. The current owners of Mountain Creek are not responsible for this hazard. Joe Hessian will demolish the structures at Mountain Creek's expense, saving property taxpayer dollars. We need to take the steps to return Northwoods back to the tax rolls. It is a valuable piece of property that Mountain Creek can develop, creating additional property tax and hopefully wastewater revenue as well. That's why I support waiving these fines. So I'm sorry it was so long, but it was a long history there that we never found conclusion over my 4 years as mayor, and we're finally there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Harry,
Yes.
I have a question for Harry.
Yes,
So the first fines or penalties were in 2012. That was before you were mayor.
Yes, that was building and zoning violations by Tom Panan
In 2012.
in 2012. Yes.
Okay, that's it. That's the only question I have.
I applaud your stance as mayor, Harry, on this particular issue. I think the aggressive stance you take is necessary in order to move something like this along. Either it moves it along or drives them out. And discussions that I've had with Mr. Hessian, and, you know, in terms of his plans, when he was here at the, giving us an overview of his activities, you know, he brought this up to me, and I understand exactly where he's going. So I concur with your stance on this, and hopefully we can, you know, move on this and move it along. Is there anybody here, like anybody else?
I have something. I'd like to
Yes,
say.
Mr. Lynch?
The building department and the zoning department inspects lots of properties in this town and levies fines and judgments against people. If it becomes this big, means that there were problems. I say we don't vote on this until the work is done.
The work?
Of getting rid of everything. Are they going to be getting rid of some of these buildings?
I think they're gonna knock
Well,
that
I
down.
think what they're doing, my understanding on this, correct me if I'm right, Mr. Zelinski, is that they're ready to demolish.
They're ready to demolish. My understanding is they're
Without the
demolishing.
assurance that they're not going to be tagged with the $6.5–7 million in fines. You know, they're going to have to probably, I would say, walk away.
That's correct. My understanding is they are going to demolish all of the structures.
You know what it is that actions speak louder than words. And if it's going to get done, I'd like to see it done instead of voting for this. And then all of a sudden it takes another 9 months for this to happen.
Let me kind of, I understand your position, but let me bring to mind another situation. every year, we are given a substantial amount of money from Mr. Hessian towards the payment of our, I believe it's our sewer situations.
Mhm.
And it was there last year, it was there this year, and we were told that he has money readily available for this coming year. Now, I understand what you're saying, that actions do speak louder than words. But more than the actions, I want to look at the individual. And if that individual has come across with, would I be wrong in saying about $2.5 million in past
Say at least, yeah.
expectations? So we're looking at $2.5 million that either has been paid or the balance of which will be paid by an individual that has already done it. I kind of think that person has demonstrated the ability and the integrity to carry through on this. So I hear your point, and I would only ask that you reconsider your thoughts based upon something like that.
I think that Mr. Hessian is a stand-up guy, and I think, and I understand your point as well.
Okay.
Your comments are well received, and I understand, but I want us to be cautious about this, that if we are going to make,
Way
I was
to,
just going to ask that. Go ahead.
is there a way to put a contingency
I'd
on,
like to know.
on the waiving, Josh? Perhaps, yes, we'll waive it, but you need to take action to get rid of this unsafe,
A letter of intention,
within a time frame or some type of,
even if it's only a starting point, not necessarily.
and I agree. I think Mr. Hessian has demonstrated his goodwill towards our community and his intention to keep his word. And I also understand Brian's concerns.
If I could just add here, and this was a major concern as mayor, and I couldn't get it to move. We know there's a hazardous condition. It's an attractive nuisance. And I think the town is liable if they don't take action.
I agree.
Mhm,
If
yeah.
someone is hurt there with all this notice, and now we're out in public again, and I said it many times in my 4 years as mayor, we're going to be responsible for knocking it down. And it could be as much as $70,000. I've heard it could be 35. We can't be spending taxpayer money to demolish it. If Mr. Hessian, not only has he paid all the sewer agreements by the 2019 agreement, they've also paid all their property taxes. So that 2.5 is probably closer to 4 million. The Hessian Group has done everything they said. There's no reason that he's going to walk away from a $70,000. And I just use that term because that's what I found out when Mr. Murata was mayor, to remove it. That really is a drop in the bucket compared to what he's already paid his obligations to this town.
Councilmember Bucieri, the resolution provides that the demolition is going to begin by October 1st.
Okay.
What the council could do is amend the resolution to provide in the last paragraph at the be it resolved section of the resolution that they will not seek to recoup the fines assessed against Northwood at Vernon from Northwoods at Mountain Creek, provided demolition begins by October 1st, as promised by Northwoods at Mountain Creek LLC. So that would ensure that the demolition does occur and begins by that date.
Does that satisfy your concern?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
With that proviso added into the resolution, Mr. Zelinski, would you be able, could we do that, proceed on that tonight?
Yes, you could. You could amend just pull the resolution out of the consent agenda, have a majority approve the amendment, and then approve or reject the resolution as amended.
Mr. Shortway, you were going to say something?
Oh, I'm fine.
Oh, okay, Mr. Fury.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with Brian that if it's written in the resolution, we can guarantee that it's going to be resolved by October 1st. I'm perfectly fine with this.
Okay, good. With that proviso, we'll make sure that we separate it from the consent agenda. All right, moving on. The per diem mutual aid agreement for water emergency standby, resolution 22-160. Somebody like to address that?
I gotta be honest with you, I've been in the fire service for 43 years. And I always thought, Josh, that we were under Title 40, that if you call for mutual aid, no matter where in the state it is, that you automatically need to render mutual aid. I didn't know that it breaks down to where they start charging people on mutual aids. If we call a tanker task force into Vernon, if there's a giant fire. Have to pay almost $115 an hour for a fire truck. The tankers of 103 and all support vehicles are $79 an hour. Somebody explain to me why this is happening?
Is the fire commissioner here? or- Available? Mr. Volkner, have you worked with the fire commissioner on this?
No, this one was sent in and I was not aware of it. I would agree with the councilman that I 30 years in public safety, never heard of this. It was always something that and a lot of times you need to update agreements if necessary, but you know, the idea of now having a carte blanche kind of like this, you're now going to have to pay for people to come to assist you is I think not a good thing. You know, we need to be able to assist one another whenever it happens. We have 4 companies that go out and assist a lot of others.
That's right.
And probably don't get quite as many to come and return to us. Primarily, if they do come, correct me if I'm wrong, they basically man the houses, which is a common practice. You know, when you have
It all determines like how bad the fire is.
how big of a
Now,
building.
we had the ski lodge go on fire. We had a tanker task force come in plus other units.
Mhm.
We had about 13 towns in this town, and they are, on this ordinance, they're accounting for everything, support vehicles and everything. So when we dispatch these companies to come, they're gonna bring everybody and the kitchen sink with them.
Right.
Payday.
For pay. I personally think that we should call, not the commissioner, but ask the commissioner to have the fire marshal, the county fire marshal, explain this to us. Where is this coming from?
Why don't we remove this from the agenda this evening?
I can't do it, but
Well, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Mr. Shortway?
I agree. You imagine if you had an agreement looking 9/11, right?
Right.
Everybody was going, they had it, you know, we were getting ordered not to go.
You're absolutely right.
You know, major like that. Or Pat, maybe you remember the Morningstar Paisley plant in 1967 in Hawthorne where those people all died. Every town around Hawthorne was sending people. We weren't worried about paying anybody. They
Nope.
sent everybody there.
and then you're gonna have to have somebody recording.
The hours.
We are, just so everybody knows, we are responsible for fueling all of the fire trucks. If somebody gets hurt on the scene, we're responsible for making sure that they get taken care of. And that's right now. We are responsible.
Even for out of town.
Even for out-of-town people, you come to our town,
School before they
they
leave.
need fuel. If they're here all night, they're gonna get fuel. Because it even happened when we had the $10 million fire at Mountain Creek.
Mr. Fury?
Oh, I agree. I think Brian's idea of having the Sussex County Fire Coordinator come to a meeting and explain what exactly this is about is the proper thing to do. I agree.
Mr. Mayor was involved in this. You have any comment on this, Mr. Mayor? This is on resolution.
If I'm mistaken, please tell me.
Okay. What is resolution?
160.
22-160.
Okay. While I'm looking at Chuck,
No, I've already spoken while you were out of the room for a minute. But I think the suggestion of having the fire commissioner from Vernon and the fire prevention
Marshall.
from the county to appear to explain this would be,
I'm not saying no to this, and because I can't vote at all on this.
Yeah,
I think that the council would be better served hearing.
seems to step out of the normal.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I think that's a reasonable request, and we will.
Not the normal
So we're
practice.
going to pull this off the agenda for this evening and we can discuss it. And see,
We'll have it on the next meeting's agenda. We'll plan to have someone here.
that'll be fine.
Okay. Maybe as a discussion item or as a,
Well, I think that's where we should start.
Yeah.
I agree.
On it, I think a discussion item. Yeah.
Right? We'll move.
make a note of that, Chuck, please.
Council President, Councilmember Bucieri said some people are having a problem getting on the meeting from a certain place on our website. Unfortunately, the link to get on the meeting is with the agenda, and I guess people are trying to go onto the calendar and get it on that way. So I just actually, through text just now, had Lauren, my assistant, fix it. So
Are you okay to continue or should? we
yeah,
take it
yeah,
from
no,
there?
we're okay, but I don't know if anyone else was having trouble getting on, but.
I guess we have to continue having hybrid meetings.
I don't know how we can stop. If we want. Lastly, Mrs. Bucieri and I were pleased to take a field trip. We went to Franklin. We visited a facility over there that is currently growing medicinal marijuana, and it's being
And recreation.
in recreation.
Both.
They're doing it both, and they're expanding their facility.
Did you ever think in a million years that you'd go on a field trip to see a marijuana plant?
Not hardly.
I couldn't believe my eyes, honestly. Yes, yeah.
So I thought it was a rather unique and interesting visit. I'm sorry, general manager was Mr.
Anders, I'll tell you. Oh, wait, I'll have to pull up my email.
We
I
met
can
with the
pull-
general manager of the facility, and
called Ascend.
the company that runs that facility is called Ascend. They have their own retail stores as well as distribution vehicles and outlets, and they also have their manufacturing and cultivation facilities. So, they are vertically integrated in the sense that they're able to do all of these things. And they provided us with a very, very enlightening and must say illuminating idea and assessment of what it takes to grow marijuana. I suppose we all have heard that, I know somebody who has 4 plants in his basement, turned on the lights and waters them every day. And in X number of days, he has marijuana or cannabis or pot, whatever. It's a far cry from that
Yeah.
when you see what's actually done in the commercial venue. The amount of money that is placed into the coffers of these companies in order to set up the buildings, the racks, the growing areas, the mediums that they use for growing are absolutely amazing, and they're very, as I said, they're very illuminating. You just don't even think of it. So with that, I'm going to ask Mrs. Bucieri if she'd like to make some comments, and then I can kind of finish out.
Yeah.
She misses.
Yeah, so the facility is called Ascend. They started out as another company. I forget the name, and they were strictly medicinal. And then Ascend purchased that company and now expanded to medicinal and recreational cannabis. Mr. Jeffrey Armstrong, its general manager. He was very gracious, explained a lot. We actually worked with one of the Franklin Council President, Conchetto Formica. So I appreciate him helping us reach out to the
Yes.
company, and he joined us on that field trip to see what it was like. It was definitely very eye-opening. It is eye-opening. It is a very detailed, down to the minute science to grow cannabis, as far as different cycles, the rooms where they're planting, where they're at a different level of growing, and there's different light required. We had to wear IVEX suits, and some points we had no lights because the plants weren't ready to have light. So it's very, very detailed, very high level of work going into there, as far as managing the plants, managing how they grow, keeping them healthy. It was very interesting. I'm sure a lot of you, if you've paid attention to meetings, it's not something I support personally, but I was really impressed. I can be objective, I think, and that's to really be impressed by someone's detail and their hard work. And Mr. Armstrong definitely knew his stuff. He was very much involved in the farming industry with other types of plants and actually animals too, I think. So he had a lot of background, a very intelligent person. He showed us there a section where they do extraction. So they have a chemist that focuses on that, a very, high level type of chemistry going on. What also really impressed itself on me was the amount of water they use. I believe for his facility, which was quite large, was about 20,000 gallons a month, which was a little bit gave me pause when I thought about our community, getting that water and then having to process it back into either an aquifer, some type of treatment. I don't know how it would work, but there are different fertilizers, and it is organic, but there are different things used in the watering of a plant that you might not necessarily want going back into groundwater. So there's processes there. They showed us these huge, I guess you call it a barrel, right? I mean, huge, ginormous tubs of water that need to be at a certain temperature before they can be watered. And also the electricity that's used. Currently, JCP&L cannot provide this facility enough electricity, so they have generators running, which is also something that, in your community where power is sometimes an issue, depending on if you have, there's different parts of town that some have Sussex Rural, some have JCP&L. So I'm sure the business people in our town that are pursuing this are looking into those things, but there are things you might not think about until you're faced with all of that power being used. And then now he's got, quite a few generators outside running. Just a point that I thought was quite interesting. I don't think there's anything else that that's it. Yeah.
Just for a few other things that you might have find interesting. The plants that are grown require light, but not all the time. And the amount of light that they are required to get is established at the first time they are exposed to light. And that particular period of time is the same amount of time that is carried through. Now, once the lights are out, you cannot go into the building unless you're carrying a green light flashlight, because they don't see green. And by that, you're safe in doing what you're doing there, walking through and
We had
whatever
little
you have
green
to do.
flashlights that we walked around with.
So exactly. They do refer to the plants by, names of mama and the papa and the children, because most all of the plants are cloned. Very, very, very few are grown from seed, because by cloning them, only that way can they control the integrity of the line. Talk about racehorses, right? So, and also the issue that you're looking at in terms of the amount of water which is given to them is metered at a very, very, substantial, small rate. It's very similar to what you might see in Israel, where they developed the drop system and were able to take the Negev desert and turn it into a place where you're growing oranges in the middle of one of the hottest deserts around. So the commitment to quality control I see as substantial. You're looking at, for example, the amount of equipment in the lab, which is about the size of, a fifth of this room, runs about $1 million, $1.5 million. The commitment to security is substantial. Cameras are all over, and every plant is identified with a UPC number from the time it makes its presence known by being grown in a medium. The medium, by the way, is not dirt, but it is coconut husks and shells and whatever else. And that way they're able to control any possibility of bacterial or mold or infections coming in to the facility. And to when those same plants are harvested and the flowers and the material is packaged and the leaf and stems and everything are removed to a compost area, I guess. So I could keep going on it, but it would only indicate that I probably know more than I probably should on something like this. Not really in total support of it. But I think that the point that I think that Mrs. Bucieri and I would like to make is that anybody that makes a commitment to the township in terms of cultivating cannabis, whether it be on a large scale basis or a micro business, it is not going to be small. It is going to be substantial, and there are going to be a number of requirements as set down by the state that need to be followed, addressed, and reported.
Yeah.
So is there anybody like to comment or question? Mr. Shortway, Mr. Fury?
No, I have no comment.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Yes, sir.
no, I have no comment.
Okay. Mayor, your last comments to the,
I'm gonna read the list first.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to depart from the agenda a little bit. Your last comments to us, you did indicate that I and perhaps some of my other council members were not totally in favor of facilities at Black Creek Drive, the bike path, walking path, and the pump track. But in fact, they are in construction phase right now. And at some point, I think we have to look at what's being done there and recognize that it's going to be part of the amenities that our township does offer to its youth and to its people. With that in mind, it is the township council does have the authority to purchase property and as well as to sell, and it also has the authority to designate a name for each of these facilities. And with that in mind, I'd like to read this resolution for the dedication and naming of the park and pump track. Whereas the youth of our community are being encouraged to avail themselves of the opportunity to use the new pump track for exercise, fun, and competitive biking competition. And whereas many of these young men and women have developed deep friendships and respect with fellow competitors, new acquaintances. And whereas these young men and women have seen the pain and suffering experienced by their friends, brought on by bullying due to lack of peer acceptance, different lifestyles, and different social attitudes. And whereas these young men and women have seen their friends experience the horror and loss of life brought on by the influence of opioids and addictive substances, and whereas so many of these deeply troubled youth have sought to escape the hurt, loss, and terrible anguish of being unloved and not being accepted by choosing to end their lives. And whereas the Vernon Township Town Council seeks to remember these young men and women who left us too soon, but still live in the hearts of their loved ones, and to offer hope and solace to those who are still deeply troubled, seeking acceptance and a place to unburden themselves. Now therefore be it resolved, the Vernon Township Council does hereby dedicate and name the new park and pump track, the Vernon Township Youth Memorial Park and Pump Track. Certification is a true copy of a resolution that we hope will be adopted at this council meeting, special meeting on June 13th of 2022. May I have this in the form of a motion to be brought up by a member of the council?
I'll make that motion.
Motion is made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there any question or comment on this from members of the council? If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
What's that resolution number, Mr. President?
22-141.
Yeah.
You have a question, Mr. Shoreway?
Yeah, no, I have a question.
Mr.
Is
Fury?
this- So you're making a motion to pass this resolution. It's not on the agenda.
Right?
Okay, so it's my complaint.
And
Hmm.
what brought this about? What was the
Oh,
reason?
I think the issue is very, very clear that it's a facility that's going to be called by something and it needs a name. And I thought long and hard about this, and I think that dedicating this particular amenity to the youth of our township, who will be perhaps using it more than anybody else, in my mind, answers that question. So, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
I'm sorry, what was the name? I heard,
The Vernon Township Youth Memorial Park and Pump Track. If you were here, I could have given you a copy of this prior to the meeting, but unfortunately,
obviously I'm not.
maybe have a roll call, please.
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
No,
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
No,
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes, thank you. We'll move on. Review of the bills list. Excuse me. You'll have your opportunity later on. Public comments.
Just so, Council President, it's going to be resolution number 22-162.
22-162. Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody wishing to make comment on any of the bills list?
I have no comment.
I have no comments.
No comment?
No comments.
Okay. I have no comment either. Thank you. Mr. Shortway,
No comment.
no comment. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Mr. Mayor, we have your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. The council president and council members, I want to first remind everyone of our Vernon Day event that has been planned and will be hosted by the Vernon PAL organization under a contractual agreement with the township. The event will take place at Vernon Township High School on Saturday, July the 18th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We in Vernon Township are honored that the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute, the organization just gave us the plaque, has chosen to visit our town to again recognize Vernon Township as one of New Jersey's healthy towns. This prestigious recognition is earned through the work of the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, a campaign that was initiated by former Mayor Harry Shortway. When I became mayor in 2020, I embraced this positive campaign, and the results are that this is the third consecutive year that Vernon has earned this prestigious recognition. Because of its importance to our town being a good place to live and to raise a family, plus a place where businesses want to locate and prosper, achieving the Healthy Town recognition is a key objective of our Mayor's Wellness Campaign. Vernon Township greatly appreciates the additional recognition that we received last year from the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute when they selected our town to be one of just 3 municipalities to discuss our Mayor's Wellness Campaign initiatives at the annual New Jersey League of Municipalities Conference in November. A special thanks goes to Mrs. Michelle Downtain, our town's Director of Recreation and Community Affairs, for the key role that she has played and continues to play in leading our Mayor's Wellness team in the planning, in the organizing, in the directing and coordinating functions required in researching and gathering the information and data that's required for the application to be considered for this very, very prestigious award. My next comment is made to fulfill a commitment that I made to the council and the public. I committed that when I had some clarity concerning the ownership of the street Black Creek Drive, that I would share that clarity with all concerned. Consistent with that commitment, I have some clarity that I would like to share tonight. A review of the results of the extensive research that was conducted by municipal engineer Stoner into the question of the ownership of Black Creek Drive has been made by me, Municipal Attorney Zielinski, and Mr. Stoner. This research has not yet found a document that reflects a clear, simple transfer of Black Creek Drive to the town. In fact, because of decades ago, some property-related transfer documents were not recorded, were not detailed, and or were not maintained in the way that they are today. Finding such a document may be mission impossible. However, what we have found are municipal resolutions and other communications in which the town repeatedly declared its ownership of Black Creek Drive and has taken actions that one could only take if it owned Black Creek Drive. While there have been some publicly expressed differences between the mayor and some on the council concerning the ownership of Black Creek Drive, the public should know this, that consistent with our charge as one governing body, both the mayor and the council have been working together behind the scenes to come to a logical and reasonable agreement on the question of the ownership of Black Creek Drive. And in that regard, I am thankful for Council President Rizzuto and to Council members Lynch and Shortway for the documents that they have provided, which supports the town's claim to ownership of Black Creek Drive. And I'm very thankful to the overwhelming majority of the council for their expressions of their beliefs that they now join with me in concluding that our town does in fact own Black Creek Drive. Based on the fact that the council and the mayor considers to be a resolved issue, we will continue forward with the understanding that Black Creek Drive is a municipal owned street. It was just at the end of last month when I provided the council and the public an update on the status of the town center walking and biking trail and the town center pump track construction project. It was my plan to again address these construction projects only when I had something new to report. However, I again address these construction projects tonight because several residents have asked me, quote, "Mayor, is it true?" type questions about the things that have been reported about these construction projects on a specific Facebook page. I am pleased to have been asked by Vernon residents to set the record straight on these Facebook posts, since these residents' questions to me indicate that, like in all America, more and more individuals are beginning to distrust and question what they see and read on Facebook pages. And I believe, quite frankly, that that's a good thing for our society. And from my perspective, isn't it an especially good thing that a current large and growing number of Vernon residents are beginning to question what they see and read on a specific Facebook page that's owned and operated by an individual whose mode of operation, in my opinion, is to use this Facebook page as a weapon of mass destruction against our town and against any organization or person who refuses to bow down to this individual. So let me proceed to address the four most recently asked "Mayor, is it true?" questions concerning the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail and the Town Center Pumps Track construction project. Question number one, Mayor, is it true, as reported on Facebook, that the town received a violation notice from the Upper Delaware Construction District related to the construction of the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail? The answer is that no, that's not true. On Thursday of last week, June the 9th, a representative of the Upper Delaware Construction District made an inspection of the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail construction site because of frequent calls from a Vernon resident complaining that the town was committing, quote, all kinds of lawless violations, unquote, and constructing the walking and biking trail. The inspector advised that what he observed was what he expected at an active construction site after the types of heavy rains that have been experienced in this area over the past 2 weeks. Specifically, he observed that while the silt fence had largely done its job of retaining the overwhelming majority of the eroded soil and asphalt millings that are being used as a base for the trail, there were some locations along the construction site where the heavy water runoff had breached the silt fence. And in these locations, the silt fence needed to be repaired or replaced. On Saturday, June the 11th, I, Municipal Engineer Corey Stoner, and 2 members of the council walked and inspected the entire length of the walking and biking trail construction site. And our observations were consistent with what the inspector had reported. During that inspection visit, the contractor was on site and in the process of repairing or replacing the breached portions of the silt fence. Question number 2, Mayor, is it true, as reported on Facebook, that in the process of constructing the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail, the town is violating state DEP laws by installing drainage pipes that divert underground streams? The answer is that no, that is not true. The 2 large drainage pipes that are being installed during the construction of the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail are not for the diversion of any underground streams and will not divert any underground streams. These drainage pipes have been installed to address the eroded ditches that have occurred over the years from stormwater runoff from the area between the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail and Route 94. And no DEP approval is required for installing drainage pipes for this purpose. These 2 drainage pipes that we are installing will serve 2 important purposes. The first is to prevent the trail from being washed out during large rainstorms in the future. And the second is to address the erosion that has occurred over the township's sewer main in that area. If this sewer main was breached, not only would it result in thousands of tax dollars in repairs, but also major problems for many of the town's sewer system users. In this regard, the installation of this drainage pipe represents a smart, cost-saving preventive measure. Question number 3, Mayor, is it true, as reported on Facebook, that it was promised that the entire portion of the Town Center Walking and Biking Trail would be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, but will not now be so? Answer, no, that is not true. Neither I, Village Administrator Volker, Municipal Engineer Stoner, or any other authorized municipal official have said or promised that the entire portion of the town center walking and biking trail would be compliant with the Americans with Disability Act. What we have said is that the portion of the town center walking and biking trail that will loop around the town center pump track will be compliant with the Americans with Disability Act, and it will be. Question number 4. Mayor, is it true, as reported on Facebook, that the town received a violation notice from the Upper Delaware Conservation District related to the construction of the town center pump track? The answer is yes, that is true. At the same time that the Upper Delaware Construction District visited Vernon to inspect the town center walking and biking trail construction site, he also visited the dormant town center pump track construction site. After visiting the pump track construction site, he provided Vernon a notice. Discussions concerning this notice with the district manager of the Upper Delaware Construction District revealed that the notice was due to the fact that during the winter months of no construction activity at the site, the combination of winter weather and the recent hard rains had resulted in some spot portions of the silt fence to be in need of repair or replacement. And unless construction at the site would resume very soon, the soil at the site should be temporarily stabilized by planting some grass or by some other means. We advised the Upper Delaware Construction District that construction at this site would resume on this Friday or even sooner, and that the construction activity would address the soil stability concerns. We also advised that just in case we received any heavy rains between now and the time that the construction at the site would resume, we would make immediate repairs and a replacement to the silt fence. Those promised repairs and a replacement were started today. My last comment is an expression of the pride that I feel at the fact that the Board of Education and one of our EMS services, the Glenwood Pochuck Volunteer Ambulance Corps, in the town in which I live and in which I currently have the honor of serving as mayor, have demonstrated an act of kindness, inclusion, and respect by making the decision to fly the pride flag during June, which has for the past several years been recognized by presidential proclamation as Pride Month. It was my hope and my desire that our town's governing body, that is the town council and the mayor, would join together and play a leadership role in our county by becoming the first town, the first school district, and the first EMS governing body in Sussex County to collectively fly the pride flag during the month of June. However, while Council Member Shortwind Fury strongly supported my desire that the pride flag be flown at our municipal building during June, this matter was not put on our council agenda for an up or down vote. I understand that some, and in fact many in our nation, have fears and discomforts about issues related to the pride flag. While I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community, I understand the intensity of these fears and discomforts because I lived through an intense period in our nation's history when many in our nation had very similar fears and discomforts about issues related to Americans of my skin color. Because we are a nation where most of the people believe in fairness. And in the last 5 words of the pledge of our nation's flag, the words that say, with liberty and justice for all. Because we are such a nation, given the passage of time, combined with the development of multi-relationships and friendship, some, although not all, have put aside and gotten over the most damaging of those fears and discomforts related to skin color. I truly believe that there will come a day and time in our nation when we as a collective group of people will be able to also put aside and get over those fears and discomforts about issues related to the pride flag. But unfortunately, that time is not now, and that day is not today. I have had some of my good friends say to me, Howard, don't stand up for these people. This is not the time. Let some future mayor handle this, quote, hot potato. It will only hurt you in the eyes and thoughts of the majority of Vernon residents. Well, that advice from my friends may be true. However, I believe strongly in the statement of one of my civic heroes, the great American Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in which he said that there is never a wrong time to do the right thing. And while the stand that I'm taking may not be the politically correct thing to do at this time, I believe it is the moral, fair, and right thing to do. I don't believe that our LGBT brothers and sisters are asking that I or anyone else approve their quote lifestyle or their quote choice, because I don't believe that being gay is a lifestyle or something that a person chooses. I believe that our LGBTQ brothers and sisters are simply asking that we understand that we are all made by the same creator. And just as the creator made some of us with brown, black, and blonde hair, he also made some of us with red hair. Just as the creator made some of us with what we call brown, black, yellow, and white skin, he also made some of us with what we call red skin. Just as the creator made some of us with an orientation that we call straight, he also made some of us with an orientation with what we call gay. Why this is the case, quite frankly, I don't know. And I don't fully understand. All I know is that it is. But what I do strongly believe is just as those of us who were made straight want to be free to be the individuals that our common creator made us to be, those of us who were made gay also want to be free to be the individual that our common creator made them to be. Because 4 members of the council have said that they were in favor of our town doing something to observe Pride Month, because my life experiences and my faith have taught me that it is not okay to treat or disrespect others in a way that I would not want to be treated or disrespected. And because a major focus of my personal and civic actions has always been on doing whatever I could to contribute to our nation's ongoing efforts to achieve that more perfect union that's articulated as an objective in the preamble to our Constitution. Because of these factors, I chose to act on my own to join with the Vernon Township Board of Education, the Glenwood Pochuck Volunteer Ambulance Corps, as well as a current large and growing number of other governing bodies in New Jersey, by finding the way for our township to also demonstrate an act of kindness, inclusion, and respect for our LGBT brothers and sisters. As the mayor of Vernon, just as I have granted approval for others to put tasteful, appropriate displays outside and inside of the municipal center during these national celebratory months and events that are recognized by presidential proclamation, I also granted approval for members of the LGBT community to place a beautiful, positive, and educational pride display in the lobby of the municipal center during Pride Month of June. In addition, as I have done during the observance of other national celebratory months for events that are recognized by presidential proclamations, I also approved the inclusion of a pride flag to be one of the several rotating displays to appear on the electronic sign that's mounted in front of the Vernon Municipal Center. I believe that it was 4 years ago that Vernon Township became the first Sussex County municipality to formally acknowledge Pride Month by a council proclamation. And I want to congratulate and thank this council for again acknowledging Pride Month by the proclamation that they have put forth tonight. This is just one of the many ways that Vernon Township is accepting this role, not just as the largest municipality in Sussex County, but also as a positive leader in our county. Vernon Township continues to take the lead in demonstrating kindness, inclusion, and respect. Thank you for bearing with me, Mr. Council President and council members. That concludes my comments for tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Curie,
Yes.
Curie,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
If anybody has any comments for the council, please step to the podium. And this podium,
Oh, this one.
yeah, the close
Yeah,
one.
the closer one. We
That way
moved
we
it on
can-
you.
You can,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And give us your name. And should be a sign-in sheet over there.
Okay, sure. My name is Craig Williams. And I'm speaking for myself. And not for any other organization I belong to. And I'm from Glenwood. And I noticed that regarding the ordinance 22-11, that there is supposed to be a second reading of that ordinance that pertains to changes to the original ordinance. And I have some questions with respect to some of those changes as per the first reading. I don't know if the second reading is going to be identical to the first, but the first reading had a section where there was a designation for the northbound 517 that would allow this activity in
Right.
some down section of that. I'm kind of questioning, that's just an unusual thing defined in an ordinance. I was trying to find out what that was about. Why was it in there? It didn't mention anything about residential zoning or any other kind of zoning, but just the northbound side of 517. And I made maps of all 517 from one end of the town to the other, trying to figure out just what this meant.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't know what this meant. So if you could enlighten me.
I believe you were here the night we had
I was here, I was late. So I didn't hear that particular part, but I'd like to hear it if you could.
I think it'll come out in the discussion, okay, when we have on this particular ordinance. But based upon what we had talked about, when we had the work session, the 517 and 565 were confused.
Oh,
Okay, because one of the pieces of property was to the north of 565, when in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the actual literal interpretation on the code was west of 517.
yes.
So it was 517 properties, 565, and then west, north of that. Okay, so what
Understand.
we had to do was clarify that so that there was no confusion, because quite honestly, the first time I read it the way I said to you. I thought we were talking about 565 and it was 517.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, brother, bending down is not what it used to be.
Oh,
Stuff getting old.
Shush.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? You step up, give us your name and your address.
Hello, this is my first time being a part of this, but I've been quietly watching from all Facebook media of groups on both sides. I am here to speak for behalf of Jason Rinker, a very successful man who ran and dedicated a bicycle shop here in Vernon, New Jersey for the past 15 years. And who gave me my career into working for Trek Bicycles one of the largest manufacturers of bicycles. And the reason why I'm standing here is to see if it's possible if we can get a memorial placard dedicated to Jason Rinker at the Vernon pump track. Because to go into history of this is that Jason has been trying to have a pump track come to Vernon for well over 10 years. Jason tried, because I'll go back into a little bit of history of myself, is I've been one of Mountain Creek's head trail builders for many years. I've also grew up and came into this town and was enthused by two wheels. Being raised by a single mother made it very hard to want to ride at Mountain Creek when those mountain bikes are very expensive. A pump track is a great gateway to getting in and getting that recognition and getting that fix. And what you mentioned was a true story for me growing up. Along with that, Jason brought me in through that and realized I had potential to be a great mountain bike rider. So then from there, Jason brought me in and knew that I started a career at Mountain Creek as a head trail builder there for quite a long time. And he started selecting me to see if it was possible to build a pump track in the front lawn of Ritopia. Presented the town, at the time it was denied. Then from there, he was on the board and rec for the sports for the town, tried to bring up the idea and things didn't happen. And then the business got busier, so he had to resign from the position or something of that matter. Then I know he brought it up to Harry Shortway back in 2016. And throughout that time, Jason and I were going to many pump tracks. And all throughout this, Jason also had a team of developing kids that he was trying to bring into the pump track.
You have 20 seconds. However, if you want to, later on at the end, you have a 5-minute period, but please continue.
Okay. All I would like to say is if we can bring this up within a true formal discussion within the next meeting. I've also started a petition to have a memorial placard be at the Vernon pump track. That's all I'm looking for, is for recognition for the person that's gave his life to getting kids on bikes in this town for well over 15 years and ran a successful bike shop and helped me meet the love of my life for the past 6 years. Has given me a successful career and essentially everyone on this side of this building.
Thank you very much.
So
Can you give me your name, please?
my name is Jonathan Hanson.
Thank you.
I'm also known as John Hanson. So
Thank you.
thank you. And along with that, we will create the funding for the memorial.
I'm sure we can come to some type of not working arrangement. We can develop some type of program for that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Alexis Franklin. I live at 8 Maple Court.
Could you put your name down on the sign-in sheet? Thank you.
First, I'd like to say that there were many, many people that could not attend today due to the short notice of this matter. I find it troubling that the vote to name the pump track was not on the agenda for all members here present today. Furthermore, that it was not presented to the community ahead of time and to give them an opportunity to vote on a name of the pump track. The bike community is a very strong community that brings hundreds of people together, not only across the town, but many people across the nation. I believe that the people should have insight and say as to what the pump track should be named. Today, we present you with a petition of 100+ individuals that agree the pump track name should be in the hands of the bike community. Biking changed my life, as did Jason Rinker and his passion for mountain biking. I am here to ask the council to reconsider the short notice vote on this matter and allow the people to have a say as to what it is named. It is only fair, and I hope you reconsider, for this matter should not be rushed. I agree with the statements that were provided, such as the loss of life, the community that biking brings, the health and wellness it provides to children, getting people off drugs and opioids, which can be life-changing. There is no one better for this title as Jason Rinker, a local mechanic that touched the lives of so many people across the world. May he rest in peace and his legacy lives on. I believe that the Vernon Pump Track should be a memorial sign for Jason Rinker. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Excuse me, can we take a moment? I received word that there's problems with people seeing or hearing this meeting.
We're on.
Who were on Zoom.
Oh. Let's see.
Is there any way we can affirm that?
I guess. Let me see. I'll try and text someone.
But the council members,
I just,
I've
my
had no
assistant
issues.
Lauren is,
Sorry?
I've had
I-
no issues.
Lauren,
And I have no issues at all.
You have
to
no
that.
issues? Okay,
yeah, she
No
said she
issues.
can hear and see.
okay. All right. Proceed. I just didn't want to run into a problem. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Just a question, is this agenda or is this new? Is
Agenda item.
Agenda. Is
Okay, just making sure. Oh, wait, thank you.
there anyone else?
Yeah, Kelly. Kelly said she can hear us.
Okay.
As a senior citizen and an avid bike rider formerly, I did 100 miles in 8 hours around West Point. So I absolutely love bike riding. And I still hang on to my 3 bikes, but I'm a little concerned about safety. I like to go bike riding and I love that idea. But I'm thinking, me alone on my bike, I'm just curious, and I don't know if you have any thoughts about it right now, about safety of people on the pump.
Bikes at the pump track.
Yeah, so it's just, I'm presenting that as a question. You probably don't have an answer for that,
No,
but I've often thought about how wonderful. I would just love to make use of it. And then right away I think, oh, gee, I'll be afraid to go on it. So
I think I would defer to the mayor on this since it's the operation of an amenity and how he would want to handle that. But I would think some type of safety decorum would be followed. Whether or not there are plans to have some type of supervisor or overseer or something like that over there, I don't know.
or even I thought of something like, how they have neighborhood watches. Well, could they have a pump truck watch group, almost like a little
Like a marshal.
Yeah.
Something.
volunteers who would be willing to be on the premises? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you give me your name, please?
Oh, Judy, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Judy Storms, Glenwood.
Thank you, Judy.
Are you volunteering?
Thanks, Judy.
Never say no.
I will.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name's Kyle Nelson. I'm a local business owner. I took over the bike shop that Jason started, now Skid Cycles. I just wanted to add in a little bit on what has been spoken about, just because I think I have a slightly unique perspective of the impact that he actually had because of all the times that somebody's come into the shop and just right away, told the story of how Jay helped them with such and such a thing. And I was also one of those people for a lot of years. So I would also just be a very strong proponent of having the park either named after him or at least a memory, or a memorial placard of some type, which also would be willing to be part of making that or at least funding it. And I'm also a resident of Vernon, and all that good stuff. So
Thank you.
quick and short and sweet.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wish to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Dee Mackery, and I am a resident of Vernon. I came out tonight to support the issue of the raising of the pride flag. And I want to thank the council. I think that was a very powerful proclamation. I also agree with Mayor Burrell's perspective on the Board of Education. I think it's a very powerful symbol of the Board of Education in raising that pride flag. I think they took politicking out of it, and they really thought about the diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. You know, Mayor Burrell spoke very movingly about his own experiences, and I think it's a good reminder that I was thinking as you were discussing, in 2015, a young woman by the name of Bree Newsom climbed the Capitol building in South Carolina and took down the Confederate flag. 2015, that flag was still flying over a Capitol building in South Carolina. Flags are symbolic and they're powerful, and they do speak either exclusion or inclusion, and we need to be mindful of that. It's also hospitable. You know, we want to attract, we want to say Vernon is a place for tourism, a place for business, a place for health, and that is a healthy sign. The other issues that came up tonight, I was not here to speak about, but I want to address them very quickly. One, on the issue of giving the mayor a raise, and I have no connection to Mayor Burrell, and it doesn't matter if it's him or the next mayor. I thought it was alarming to hear this council move so quickly from a raise, which might be anything from a part-time raise from 30,000 to 40,000, to changing the job from a part-time to a full-time, to suddenly talk about different forms of government. That seemed very radical to me. And in fact, one council member talked about changing the government back to what it should be. But at the same time, it was stated tonight that 70% of Vernon residents voted for that change in government. So I just think that's an important point. It was far more alarming to me as a taxpayer in this town to hear that we're willing to waive liens of $6 million than, you know, a $10,000 increase for the mayor. That was, or changing that job to full-time. That was far more alarming to me. I think it's important that we want to turn over those properties, and we do want to encourage Mountain Creek, but we also should be thinking about, they're probably picking up that property for a song. So how are they reinvesting in this town? That's an important question. And then finally, I just want to echo, this is the first time I'm hearing about this pump track, but I actually met the man who was the owner. My son, he's probably 20 now. I stopped in and to buy a bicycle, and he was just wonderful. And I think if this was rushed, and there are people out here saying, hey, we want to support local businesses, the more that we can attach places and faces and spaces, and the more that we can attach mentors to those spaces that young people are using, why not? Why not at least have that conversation?
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Carl Contino, Vernon Township resident my whole life. I want to thank the Vernon Township Council and Mayor Burrell for proclaiming Pride Month in our town and for the mayor's comments tonight. Like the mayor said, our town's activities say, typo in my thing. Our town's activities celebrating Pride Month are leading the way for positive change in Sussex County. Vernon is a town that is welcoming to all, and this proclamation And the celebrations that we're doing, like the display in the foyer, are a clear display and proof of that. Although there may be differences amongst us about a multitude of other issues, I am beyond glad to see our council and our mayor and the people here come together and celebrate liberty, diversity, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness this June. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Is there anyone else like to address the council?
Hello, good evening. My name is Victoria Baumgartner. I am a newer resident to Vernon. I originally grew up in Elmwood Park, and all my life I have played sports. I have done softball, baseball, soccer, basketball, and volleyball. My whole life I have grown up as an athlete, and I have had no intentions of speaking tonight. I do not spend much time on Facebook, so I do not read a lot of those posts. But listening to these people today, who are my friends, I used to drive an hour every single day to come to Vernon, to come to Mountain Creek, to pursue mountain biking. My first rental was from Jason Rinker at Ridetopia. It was a very rainy day, and it was the last day of the season. He had no more rental bikes, and nor did Mountain Creek. So this had left me with a journey to go back home. I had shared my story with Jason, and he had looked at me and he said, "I have one thing for you, if you don't mind." So he goes downstairs and brings up a 1999 white mongoose downhill bike. It was so heavy, I could not lift it at all. I went to the mountain and I rode all day long. It was my first time on a mountain bike. And that day I had a smile from ear to ear. This would have not been possible by the heart of Jason Rinker. He then, when I got back, asked me how my first day was. I told him that it was incredible and that I would be back next season. Fast forward, our rental had ended in Hawthorne, New Jersey. And then I started pursuing new houses with my boyfriend, which had led us an hour away from Hawthorne and Elmwood Park. We had moved here to Cedar Terrace, and I found a community that I love, that has accepted me. All my life, I had wanted to be an educator. I went to school for education, and I almost received my degree for K through 12. I stopped because COVID happened. I did not want to pursue education online. It is a hands-on thing. This is where I was offered a job at Trek Bicycle Corporations. My whole life, I wanted to be a teacher and an educator. I got this opportunity within Trek Bicycles. Every day, I get to teach people the love of riding a bicycle. Every day, I get to teach kids how to change gears, how to brake. Every day, I get to show adults that it's never too old to get onto a bicycle. Lexi Franklin had made a statement saying that we should have the bike community have a say in the name of this park, and that is something that I agree on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? No? Is there anyone from the skybox?
Yes. Mark Heffler.
Mr. Heffler?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mark Heffler, Highland Lakes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to address resolutions number 22-156 on Freedom Month and number 22-161 on the flagship town policy. Regarding resolution number 22-156, I'm not personally familiar with Freedom Month, and research didn't really seem to reveal any details on it. I thought it was especially surprising given that the council already generously proclaimed June as Pride Month, and that June contains the federal holiday of Juneteenth, memorializing the end of slavery. So I'm just hopeful to be delighted in hearing more about it and how it wound up on the agenda as a resolution, and hoping to hear some discussion tonight on the same when that comes up for a vote. Regarding resolution number 22-161 on the township flag policy, there's some specific and concerning language, at least to me, in that resolution, stating that the township will not display a commemorative flag based on a request from a third party. Now, I'm sure that resolution is just a strongly worded attempt to fit within the legal structure described by the United States Supreme Court in Shurtleff v. the City of Boston, which was released back in May of this year. But at the end of the day, what this resolution seems to do is bar township's constituents, or what the resolution calls third parties, from petitioning their elected officials to act in a certain way. It's concerning if it is the instinct of the council to pass a resolution barring constituent requests in response to a request from their constituents. That doesn't really seem like something people who want to serve their constituents should be doing. And I would be concerned about, what right to petition our government we might lose next if we start down that path. As always, I thank you all for your time and service this evening and at all times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Peg DeStassi.
Ms. DeStassi,
Good evening.
good evening.
I had a couple questions, but mostly, did I miss the bills list? Did we jump over it?
I guess we went through it. There wasn't any
Okay.
comment on it.
So we did not discuss it? Okay. I did have a couple questions on it. Mostly, I wanted to know if, because fire department expenses were being discussed, is Brian, and I'm not trying to single you out, Brian, but should they be separated out so that Brian can place a vote? That's mainly my question.
Mr. Lynch has in the past and will continue to do so, has exempted himself and excused himself for any vote on fire department issues.
Okay, well, I'm talking about paying the bills list. Okay.
We don't vote on the bills
We don't
list.
vote, we don't vote on the bills list. This is just an examination of the
Oh,
bills
okay,
list.
then I apologize. Okay.
However, that becomes an operations matter. Thank you.
Okay, I do support 22-161, which is the proper flag display. And I am opposed to 22-13, which is an increase in the mayor's salary. I would agree to it if the mayor's position became a full-time job with business development being its main activity. I do not feel that we should be paying a mayor to do photo ops and handshakes. I am not opposed to looking at a change in the government and believe that all of this should go before the voters in November. So I'm requesting that we put some public meetings up between now and the next election to further discuss not only the government change, but a change in the mayor's duties as well as salary.
Thank you.
Excuse me while I run through my, I'm sorry, I'm looking through. Since you brought up the resolution, I will say I'm opposed to the Vernon Youth Memorial naming of the park. I agree that the name should be a public discussion and that the voters should vote on this. I don't think it should be one person deciding what the name should be. In addition to that, I think it would be a nice thing that if we do name it in a general term, that we allow individuals to memorialize their people or person by maybe dedicating, a bike rack or, something on the track in memorial for that. I do like the idea that
Thank you very
it's
much,
for the
Mrs.
youth.
DeSassi.
Okay. Thank you.
I have Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery, how are you?
Yes, good evening, excuse me. Three things. Number one, I sat back in 2010, 2009 on the committee to change the form of government. And having done that, the first thing we did was to go before that council and ask them to put that proposition on the ballot for the election, for the voters to decide how to go. The council at that point decided that it didn't want to do that. So what we did is we got together, got a petition, took that petition back to the council. They had no way to get around it, and so they had to put it out to the voters at the next election. And my point there is this: there's two ways to change the form of government. One is the way that we did it, and two is to have the council just put it out on the ballot for the voters to decide if they want to change the form of government. There's no big mystery here, and that's the way that's done. I mean, I disagree on that. I disagree with the town attorney and a councilman. Number two, I see no reason whatsoever why we should be paying $90,000 to $140,000 to a business administrator who does all the same work that we're saying that the mayor does. And let me just say that again: $90,000 to $140,000 to a business administrator, and now you want to pay the mayor to do the same thing. I disagree with that. And number three is Northwoods. The town and thereby the taxpayers paid to have this case taken to court. And probably, spent a couple of years doing it. Finally won, got $6 million. Now, the problem with that is this: it's the same group of actors that owns Northwoods that were the hole in the pipe gang. Those people were arguing, it's fairly complex, but essentially it was sewer allocation for the township. They sued the township for years. The town taxpayers paid $225,000 for that one.
Thank you, Thank you very much, Mr. McClacker.
Hey, fun?
So thank you very much. Your time has expired.
Good night.
Good night.
Simone Kraus.
Ms. Kraus?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I just wanted to say thank you very much to Mayor Burrell, Councilman Rizzuto, President, for passing and endorsing the Pride resolution for this month. Councilman Lynch, you did a fine job doing that tongue twister of names. I understand that can be a little bit intimidating. I know the pride flags have really, caused people's heads to explode in the town. And unfortunately, having this flag resolution come up, I think we're missing an opportunity, because I know one time you mentioned a smaller flagpole, and I often thought that slower flagpole with the New Jersey state flag on there could be used for just bring awareness, breast cancer awareness, autism awareness, the pride flag, a certain day, honoring different, facets of our community, whether it, goes from Blue Lives Matters to on, Veterans Day, the actual day. I think we're really missing an opportunity here that would bring us closer together and realize that we actually have more in common than either one of us want to realize. So I hope people will think about that, an opportunity that could be possibly being missed. And I just want to say thank you very much again to the council, Mayor Burrell. I'm humbled and honored that you recognize Pride Month. It means a lot to me and my community. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you.
Sean Clarkin.
Mr. Clarkin.
Hi, how you doing, everybody? I missed the beginning of the meeting. I'm out of state, so I'm on the line from Dallas, Texas. I want to say that changing the form of government is something that is being considered, and whether we keep the form of government that we have or we change it, I think that the focus of our local government here in Vernon needs to be promoting citizen participation. Now, it may make the jobs of the council members a little bit more difficult because there'll be more people speaking, but it is a government of the people. And we recently reduced one of the lines of communication because the state of New Jersey declared it was no longer necessary. A few months ago, we also stopped accepting emails, which was a way that I personally preferred to communicate, where I was sending my emails to the administrator and the administrator was reading them. Reducing the manners and the ways that the citizens can communicate to the governing body has to be expanded. Newspapers are from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Today, we have the internet, we have email. The governing body of Vernon should have an email list. And you had a meeting last week to discuss something. I knew nothing of it. And I try to be as involved as I can while earning a career. I knew nothing of it and I stumbled upon it by mistake. The government of Vernon is for the people, and the people of Vernon need to have an open line of communication with the mayor, with the town council, and we need to know when things are going on. And a vague agenda, like there's items I understand that weren't even on, I looked through the agenda earlier today. Some of what you're discussing, the naming of the park, was that even on the agenda? This level of communication is honestly disgraceful, okay? There's a lot of handicapped people who live in our community who would want to participate, but they don't because they can't, okay? Thank you very much. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
I'm sorry, Bill Table Setter.
Mr. Table Setter. Mr. Table Setter, are you unmuted?
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Problems with the setup today. I don't know why. Getting online to the Zoom meeting was difficult. I would like to thank you, Mr. Rizzuto, for having an epiphany and getting that pride thing done. I was shocked. And you're coming around on the pump track. I like that. So thank you.
Well, is that it?
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Doreen Edwards.
Ms. Edwards, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the beginning of the meeting, especially when you're talking about possibly changing the form of government. I want to say that I am definitely in favor of looking at that, going from a Faulkner Act strong mayor to a different type of government, perhaps what we had before. I had actually been part of the petitioning to change the government to what we have now. But unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that it would be exactly the way it is. Unfortunately, I feel that there's still a lot of transparency issues. And I think that in my mind, that's what I was hoping for, that it would be better. Because if you remember, we went from issues with a town administrator that hurt the community. Don Teolis was another issue. So Vernon had a lot of black clouds and we were trying to clean that up. And unfortunately, I don't know how it became bipartisan. I do feel that the people voting for a mayor should know their background and their morals. So that's all I want to say about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jesse Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini.
You might have noticed that I have not commented for the past 6 weeks or so because frankly, I was just too disgusted. I just want to say that as one of the people who spearheaded the change in government 10 years ago, we always said that the type of government we were going to would only be as good as the mayor we elected. And now we have seen for the past 6 years that this type of government does not work for Vernon. So I would strongly spearhead changing back to what we were. Councilman Rizzuto and Lynch, about the pump track and the trail, I just want to say that Mayor Burrell has once again flim-flammed you. Mayor Burrell, I have nothing to say about all of your lies and outrageous comments tonight. There are just no words except the following words from my faith. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. That's all.
Are you done? Sheeta? Thank you.
I have no other hands up.
Okay, yes.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Ann Larson.
Okay.
Well, she's up here.
Hi, hello, hi. My name's Camilla DeResta. I live in Glenwood. I wanted to thank the council members for passing the proclamation to Pride Month. I also would like to say to Mayor Burrell, I think you are a wonderful mayor and you are an inspiration to us all. And thank you so much for putting everything you have for your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Esposito. I'm an 8th grader in Glen Meadow Middle School. I want to say my sincerest thank yous for proclaiming this Pride Month. It means a lot to see Vernon take a step in the right direction. And I agree with the mayor that people have fought so hard and been through harrowing times and deserve recognition with a rainbow flag for the fight that they have put up to gain equal rights. There's a political block and a wall of fear, and we need to break through this and raise the flag. Still, I thank the mayor for granting permission for the beautiful display of inclusion in the lobby, and I thank the town council for the proclamation of June as Pride Month. I also agree with the many people who spoke here tonight that one person shouldn't be in charge of the naming of the pump track and that it should be a discussion of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I have Ann Larson.
Ms. Larson?
Good evening. Thank you very much. I guess I can be brief. I only had a couple things I wanted to mention in reference to the $6 million with the Northwood property. Unfortunately, for a town that is always in desperate need of money, I don't see how these mistakes continue to happen, I guess, decade after decade. How we could go to the extent of winning a lawsuit and neglecting to record it on the property. I find it appalling. It would have solved, I realize $6 million is an absurd sum of money, but there are a lot of steps between 0 and 6 million that perhaps we could settle upon and maybe recoup some of those expenses. That said, I think perhaps looking into the feasibility of making a claim against the person or attorney who might have neglected to file that lien is warranted, because that's a lot of mistakes to leave on the, on the table. $6 million is a lot of money. Maybe we could take something far less than 6 million, but something is better than nothing. And I think it would be a good time to have that conversation with the people at Northwood. They obviously paid something for that property and they have other intentions on using it. They knew it existed, we knew it existed, and somehow it accidentally was overlooked. I'm not sure how accidental that was, but I think it requires further looking into. That said, thank you very much. I'm good. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Larson.
I don't have any other hands.
Okay, seeing no one else coming forward, may I have a motion to close the floor to the public?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. For the benefit of clarification of the argument regarding the issue of issuance of violations on the current construction, I took it upon myself to visit the construction site over the weekend. And indeed, it looked like a construction site in progress. The considerations or the concerns that I had were the installation of a culvert, which seemed to be without permission from the DEP. However, further clarification on my understanding of the regulations were that were this to be an active stream, that concern would have been entirely true. But since this was a trench that was only active during very rainy time, a very rainy period, when you had runoff from the side of the mountain, that culvert did not fall or did not require approval from the DEP. Now, as far as the failure on the silt fences, I go back to when we had Tropical Storm Lee, and we were walking in water up to our waist. And people were trying to mitigate the runoff on properties and housing areas, and they were using whatever they could besides silt fences, including sandbags and whatever. And with that amount of runoff, it became almost impossible to do anything. And when you looked at those silt fences, they indeed did stop something, but then they failed because of the pressure on the amount of water, and it's going to require someone to improve it. Now, conversations with the township engineer indicated to me that this was being undertaken. As regards to the millings, that was part of the runoff, and indeed that was going to have to be addressed. As regards to the AD, the American for Disabilities Act, whereby part of this property, part of the tract was going to be compliant. The actual statements regarding the ADA compliant requirements that were desired for the bike path and for the walking path could never and would never have qualified. The grade is so substantial that, you'd have to find some other way of entering onto that particular path. So and I believe this may have been brought up by a former councilman in all good conscience where he was trying to, seeing if something could be done. But with regards to what is being done now, that ADA compliant area is, as the mayor stated, around the pump track and as a loop that would be considered with, and it has reasonably good ingress onto that particular pathway. So, you know, while my opposition has not been unnoticed, you know, fair is fair. And I do think that when these situations come up, it is incumbent upon me as council president to try and clarify these things as quickly and as clearly as possible. Not just use the opportunity and for keeping silent in hopes that something is going to go wrong. So with that, I'd like to move on.
Council President.
You're welcome, Mr. All members of the council have received copies of the minutes of April 11th, April 25, April 25 regular meeting, as well as the executive session. May 9th, 2022, executive session, May 9th, 2022, regular meeting, May 23rd, 2022, regular meeting. I will take them sequentially. May I have a motion to place the minutes of the meeting of April 11th on 2022 regular session on the floor for consideration and approval and or correction?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortway. Is there anyone wishing
Yes.
to address anything on the minutes?
Yeah, I do, Pat, on that,
Okay.
on that particular, in those minutes, there's only a couple, there's a minor spelling issue.
Okay.
There was master, it said matter and it should be master. Another one that wasn't really minor was one of the votes referred to Brian Fury. I don't think there's a Brian Fury. There is a Brian Lynch and there is a Michael Fury. So I just
say, Mr. Fury?
I'm sorry, I had to
It's
point
okay.
that out.
You could call me in advance to fix
I-
this.
So
So
I read
just
it
so you
today.
know, just
I
for next
I
time.
just read it today. I just.
Remember, his name is Mike, not
I
Brian.
know.
Brian
right.
doesn't sound so bad, though. Very
Yeah, I know, it
nice.
does.
It kind of flows.
It does flow.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Now, there
No
was
one's ever
another,
said that in life.
there is something a little bit more substantial that I wanted to mention. During the discussion about the Legends property, we had a presentation that there was some discussion about the sewer service area. I know Brian brought something up about water supplies and sewer. And I also mentioned something about the sewer service area. And I also mentioned, or I asked Jessica Caldwell about the, if the property was located in the sewer service area. And it's not, and that was not reflected in the minutes. So that part of the discussion was not really addressed in the minutes, and I think it should be.
Are we able to make those corrections? Okay, thank you. With those corrections in mind, is there anybody else wishing to offer any correction? If not, with those corrections, may I have a roll call vote to approve the amended minutes?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Member Lynch,
Yes.
Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes. Thank you. Members, for the meeting, the executive session on April 25th, 2022.
I'll make a motion.
To put that on the floor?
I'll second it.
Who made the motion?
I made the motion, Mike Fury.
Okay, Mr. Fury made the motion, seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there anything of substance that needs to be corrected?
No,
No?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Do I, roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Abstain.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
For the minutes, a regular meeting of April 25th, may I have a motion to place that on?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. Any comments, any questions or any corrections to the minutes?
No.
Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Abstain.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Meeting of the executive session of May 9th.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. For a second,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Are there any corrections to this?
None for me.
No.
None?
No.
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Finally, for the meeting of May 23rd, our regular meeting, do I have a motion to place that on the floor for consideration?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Is there anything that anybody would like to have corrected, changed, or omitted?
No.
No? Are we okay?
Yes.
Okay. Have a roll call, please.
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
I think just missed one.
Yeah, we got to do May 9th regular meeting.
Oh, I missed that one? I'm sorry. Yes, well, you're right. It's right here. May I have a motion to place May?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there
I'll
a
second
second?
it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there anything anybody would like to add or delete?
No.
Correct? All right. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yeah, we did have. Yeah.
It's all set. Thank you. Moves this to our consent agenda.
Council President, I'm going to ask if you could remove resolution 22-155 and 22-160. Two resolutions I am prohibited in voting for.
So you want to
Or
pull,
against.
want to pull them out? Okay. 150
155
and
and 160.
160. I thought on 160 that particular
Yes, we're going to,
one is, we're going to remove that from the agenda and we'll, I guess, table it. Since it's on the agenda right now, and we'll see what we can do to address your concerns. They're very valid concerns. Thank you for bringing them to our attention. So we will table that later. Okay, and we will also pull out resolution 22-154. Okay. The Consent agenda, resolution 22-141. Excuse me, refund overpayment, block 431.
Pat,
Yes.
hold on. Can I
Sure.
pull out resolution 22-161?
Thank you, Mike.
161.
161, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was planning on doing that myself, but it's going to be done. We'll table that one. I spoke with Mr. Shortway this morning and he apprised me of some developments, which I think should be considered before it's brought up again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So resolution 22-141, refund overpayment, block 431, lot 4, Celeste Ready. Resolution 22-142, refund overpayment, block 386, lot 7, Loretta. Resolution 22-143, refund overpayment, block 529, lot 12, Deborah Murata. Resolution 22-144, refund overpayment, block 527, lot 532, Allied Title. Resolution 22-145, refund overpayment, block 528, lot 82, Guardian Title Services. Resolution 22-146, refund overpayment, block 379, lot 4, John and Helene Salerno. Resolution 22-147, refund overpayment, block 581, lot 30, Bruce Tussey. Resolution 22-148, resolution refund overpayment, block 431, lot 4, Celeste Ready. Resolution 22-149, a resolution authorizing the emergency procurement of fuel for daily operations of the Township of Vernon. Resolution 22-150. Resolution of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, awarding procurement 7-2022 refreshments vendor at the Maple Grange Park snack stand concession to Cupcake Cafe LLC. Resolution 22-151, resolution authorizing interlocal services agreement for the services of the Department of Public Works. Resolution 22-152, authorizing to endorse a treatment works approval application to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for construction of an on-site wastewater treatment and disposal system alteration at Camp Luema, located at Block 5, Lot 12. Resolution 22-153, Chapter 159, resolution approval of revenue and appropriation amending the 2022 budget as a revenue and appropriation of $54,505.72. Always a pleasure to do these. Resolution 22-156. Resolution proclaiming June 2022 Freedom Month in Vernon Township. Resolution 22-157, renewal of liquor licenses in the Vernon Township of Vernon for the 2022-2023 license term. Resolution 22-158, authorizing the township planner to prepare a redevelopment plan for block 521, lot 10. Resolution 22-159, authorizing the Township Land Use Board to undertake a preliminary investigation to determine whether the proposed study area, block 525, lot 19, study exhibit A, qualifies as a non-condemnation redevelopment area pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-5. May I have a motion to place those resolutions on the floor for
I'll make that motion. Council.
motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. May I have a roll call, please?
Pat, before well, I just have a quick question on one of those, on resolution 22-158, authorizing the township planner. I know what that's about, but I read the resolution. Was there a dollar figure associated with doing that redevelopment plan?
I don't, let me see.
It doesn't say it in the resolution, but I think it's a question for the administrator and Howard or the mayor. Was there any kind of proposal given by the planner to do this, and was there a dollar figure associated with it? I apologize for not bringing this up, but I missed it.
I'm not aware, there's not a dollar figure yet, but
22-150. Is there a lot and block number associated
No,
with
there's
that?
not.
I know what it's about, Pat. It's about the
Yeah,
the
mixed
plan-
use zone, is there, is that also in
yeah, it's
the
about the planned development off of 94.
MGG development.
HMGG development?
whatever the dollar figure is, the landowner will actually put that, or there'll be an estimate made by the planner. That amount of money will go into escrow.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's correct.
yeah, we, the taxpayers, we won't pay for it.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving to resolution 22-154. Resolution concerning the enforcement of fines against Northwoods at Mountain Creek LLC. I believe we had an extensive conversation and explanation from the attorney and former mayor. And in good conscience, I can't disagree. No one likes to give up $6 million, but first of all, we can't even find the people to pay the $6 million. So what are we giving up? I mean, it is something that we're there to try and move this particular project along so we can put this property back on an active tax roll. So is there anyone else would like to say anything in consideration of this?
No.
I'd just like to say, Mr. Council President, that passing this resolution does not let those individuals off the hook.
Right, we can still go after them.
And we'll continue to try to pursue it if we can find them.
If we can find out who they are.
Right, absolutely. So we aren't giving up anything.
I understand. Okay, roll call, please.
Is there any chance of saying something?
Excuse me?
Is there any chance to say something from a professional real estate agent who works in Vernon?
Sorry, the meeting is closed. Sure, thank you. May I roll call, please?
Did we have a
First and a second?
first and a
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The resolution to number 22-155, the active firefighter for membership in New Jersey State Firemen's Association. We are approving membership. May I have this in a form of a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Motion
second.
made by Mr. Fury, I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Fury, and seconded by Mr. Shortway.
Shortway, thank you.
Welcome.
Any comment on this? Nope. All right.
No.
Please call the roll exempting Mr. Lynch.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
I
Yes.
abstain.
yes.
Okay.
Council
Thank you.
President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you very
Welcome
much.
to Mr. Diorio to the Firemen's Association. I'm sure he'll be a very good member.
Okay,
Exactly.
all right. Cool, I'm on the laptop. I can't talk to you on the phone. I'm not on the laptop.
Excuse me.
I don't know.
How'd we get there? Okay. All right, resolution 22-160. Resolution authorizing the mayor, municipal clerk to execute a per diem mutual aid agreement for
We're gonna,
water emergency? We're gonna
We're
table.
tabling this one.
you said that you were gonna wait until somebody come in and explained a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I gotta get it on the,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
okay? Emergency standbys as requested through the Sussex County Fire Coordinator on an as-needs basis. Based upon the previous discussion that we had that was brought to our attention, and it seems to me the obvious differing on past practice, I would suggest highly that this resolution be tabled until normally I would give it a date, but let's see when we can get somebody here who can give us the appropriate information. Perhaps the fire marshal can
We'll
work.
move on that
Office.
tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
See if we, hopefully by the next meeting.
If so, then we will move it to that
Yeah.
point. If not, we will wait until the next available time. So motion to table takes precedence. May I have a roll call, please?
We need a first and a second.
No.
I'll make a motion to table.
We don't, a motion made by Mr. Fury. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
I abstain.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries to table.
okay. Resolution 22-161, a resolution for Vernon Township flag display policy. I want to thank Mr. Shortway for bringing some possible considerations that should be reviewed on this. Mr. Zelinski, were you given the information or were you able to?
I have the information. I haven't been able to complete my
Okay, fine.
analysis yet.
So I
That's
just
gonna-
wanted to make sure it was brought to your attention.
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
was.
I would like to have a motion to table this.
I'll make that motion to table resolution 22-161.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Introduction, first reading of proposed ordinance, an ordinance establishing the salaries for certain officers and employees of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 22-13?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. My understanding is that, and the understanding of the council is that what we are doing this evening on this is simply setting the start points and end points for the salary ranges for non-contractual and department head employees. And that no individual is be given any raise because of this council action this evening.
Absolutely.
Correct. Okay, may I have a motion? I'm sorry, may I have a,
What they want to accept that the 5 individuals who did not get the 2%. There was 5 individuals who we could not grant the 2% to, as we would all the other employees. Of 5 individuals.
all right, I remember, we had our discussion on that.
Yeah.
And relative to that, I believe there was going to be subsequent discussions on another form so that we don't have to rely on only a rolling 2.
In the future, absolutely correct. And consistent with this implementation.
Okay,
But we've already authorized in the budget 2% for all employees,
okay,
for those employees, but these 5 couldn't get the 2% because of the salary range. It was 5 or 6. Was it 5 or 6, Chuck?
That's correct.
Okay,
all right,
but just to be on point, because you asked a very specific question.
right,
This in itself will not give anyone else any future raises just because we expanded the salary guide.
okay,
And we agree too that we, the administration, we're going to take a look at looking at an appraisal system so that we can determine the performance of every individual and reward people as they should be rewarded and consequence people as they should be consequenced.
that's correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Good, Mayor.
Maybe you have a roll call, please?
Oh, wait,
I'm
Pat,
sorry, okay.
Yeah, I said a comment. I had a question. I
Sure.
know the one question I have, and I'd like further clarification, and I know the Mayor Burrell, you did call me and speak to me about this. I would like to see, you did mention that, you know, I would like to see three things. Well, what the current salary range is. Obviously, I know what the proposed one is because it's in the ordinance. There was also something that you mentioned,
Yes.
Mayor Burrell, that there was a salary survey performed.
Did you,
in
did
order
you
to-
receive, Mike? Did you?
I did
receive-
not, I did not
You
receive
didn't
that.
receive this? It should have been in your mail.
Well, it might have been a hard copy.
All right, this is a hard copy. I don't know. Did you send it out electronic?
Yes.
You did.
I did.
Okay.
Attach it.
All right, but this is a hard copy and it quite clearly
I-
breaks down exactly what you're asking.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I did not receive it. So
Okay.
I would have reviewed it if I had it. I did not,
All
I
right.
did not receive it.
See, that's another thing that you miss by not joining us in fellowship, sitting on the dais.
Yeah. Well, that's,
Well, Mike,
that's-
I can
that's
get it
nice,
to
but
you.
I
that's
thought I
nice,
made
but
it.
that's nice, but I did not receive that information.
Okay,
So,
Mr.
you
Council
know,
President, I can get it to him
thank you very much.
before this is just the introduction.
Yes,
So he can have that
you
data.
can have it for the next meeting. Right.
Yeah, I can get it. I'll make sure I do that.
Mayor, if you can include it for myself also, it wasn't in my packet either.
Okay,
Thank
I don't
you.
have it either.
You don't have it? Can you also include Mrs.
Is it in
Bucieri on
my-
that?
Is it in my mailbox?
I didn't,
Oh, okay.
you know, I was the one,
Oh, Pat,
I know we got this
I got it.
at the initial
But
meeting.
what this indicates to me, I did send an email to everyone
I didn't-
talking about this matter, and I thought I also attached the salary rate. Evidently, I did not, because there are three people who didn't get it.
we got it.
My mistake. I'll make sure first thing tomorrow,
Okay,
I'll get it.
I got it.
no problem.
Thank
So-
you, Mayor.
so I'm not crazy.
No,
No,
Not this time.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Natalie.
all right. So nothing else? May I have a roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Bucieri,
Yes,
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes, thank you very much. Um, Public hearing, second reading of ordinance 22-11. An ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending section 330-160 entitled Schedule of Permitted, Conditional, and Accessory Uses and Structures to prohibit farmland assessment on properties where legal cannabis is cultivated. May I have a motion to place this ordinance on the floor for consideration and review?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Shortway. There has been a question as to whether or not this ordinance needs to be revised. Any recommendation for a revision, an amendment to the ordinance back to what it was or another form must, I believe, in fact, come from those who voted in the affirmative on the first time around. So that would require some input in terms of recommending these changes with Mr. Lynch, Mr. Shortway, or Mr. Fury. So may I have a motion or may I have discussion on this? How do we want to handle this? First consideration was the issue of the number of cultivators, which was changed initially from 2 to unlimited.
Council President, I would like to move that this ordinance be amended to eliminate the word unlimited and go back to the number 2 for the 2 original applications for this ordinance.
All right, the motion is, the recommendation has been made to have the amendment made to 2. Is there a second for this particular amendment?
So Pat, explain to me, any amendment has to be brought forth by whoever voted yes?
Yes, because that, otherwise we would never be able to maintain something because people would continue to change it. So according to, parliamentary procedure, this is the way it works. If you choose not to do this, we are now going to go back to where we were, and we face severe penalties if we fail to come up with some type of an acceptable.
I think it's reasonable to go from unlimited to 2, the original 2, if that's the only amendment that
Okay,
we're gonna make, and I would be okay with that, if that's the only amendment.
well, let's vote one at a time, please, Mike. All right,
We got 2 other.
there are 2 other considerations that need to be addressed, all right? So there is a second
Is there a second yet?
by Mr. Fury.
No, I did not second it.
Are you, Mr. Shoreway?
He's muted. You're muted, Harry.
It's not coming off. No, I'm not going to second here. I'm going to propose a different number.
What number is that?
5, since there's only 3 licenses still available at the state.
And I also agree, just to, for what Harry said, I think that 5 is a reasonable number, being that there's 34 licenses were approved and there were supposed to be 37. That leaves 3 on the table that could be further approved. And I think a reasonable number would be 5. So we could take advantage of any additional cultivation sites that want to get a license.
I'm particularly not disturbed. It's a surprise, I suppose, because we did spend quite a bit of time discussing this at our work session and nothing like this came up.
Well, I actually did mention this in my comments. I did say that.
Yeah.
Well, both Mike and Harry went along with what I had said back when we had that special meeting, because the state isn't giving out any more licenses. So we could always go back and re-amend this ordinance. But right now, we need to make sure that these 2 applicants are taken care of, because we are being pushed into a corner here.
Does not 5 take care of them?
Yes, 5 takes care of them, but I'll change it to 5 if that's what we have to do. I don't see the reason for it. We're not going to be able to get 5. They're not handing out any more applications right now.
And certainly, I think might go back to my original statement that why look at trying to increase it from, 2 to 5 when we don't even know how 2 is going to work. The visits that we had that Mrs. Bucieri and I made show that this is indeed not as simple as you might think. And there is no reason why we can't consider this at a later date. Once we get the initial applicants, 2 people that were here the other evening for the work session, and get them going and on the road. Otherwise, we're going to wind up in court.
Council President, might I just ask for a clarification from Mr. Lynch on his amendment? The ordinance, are you looking to amend the provision that removed cannabis cultivators from the light industrial zone, and also that made that unlimited? And are you seeking it to be 2 in that zone? Or
Yes.
3 with respect to all the other types of cannabis products allowed?
I would re-amend my motion to say for 3.
3 cultivation license?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a second for 3, since the maker of the resolution or the motion has changed that number from 2 to 3.
And that is in the light industrial zone.
Right.
What it would essentially do would be removing the strikeout of cannabis cultivator in ordinance 2211 in that first sentence.
Okay.
I think it's a reasonable compromise.
Yeah, I think that's
Very
reasonable.
reasonable. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable compromise. 3 is a reasonable compromise.
Thank you. Okay. Roll call, please.
Did we have a second on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's
I'll
second?
second
I
it.
think
Yeah.
Mr.
Thank you,
Shortway
Harry.
seconded.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There are 2 additional considerations that need to be addressed. There was on the initial ordinance some confusion with relative to the placement or not the placement, but the recognition of a particular area on west of Route 517. There was some confusion. People thought it was 565. I wish to make sure that we have a motion to clarify that by stating that the permit to have the cultivator in that particular area grown west of Route 517. All properties therein. Is that a correct statement, Mr. Zelinski?
That is correct. The ordinance provides 2211 in the sentence beginning with additionally. Additionally, cannabis cultivators shall be permitted in the McAfee mixed-use zone and on R2 zone properties with a minimum of 6 acres located west of County Road 517 and on R1 zone properties within a minimum of 6 acres located on the northbound side of County Road 517.
Okay.
So the question is whether that description of the westbound side of County Road 517 for R2 zone properties, and then whether the description for R1 zone properties on the northbound side of 517, whether those 2 descriptions are sufficient or not.
For recognition of removal of the R1 district as well, or just separately the recognition of that particular statement of boundaries?
I'm just addressing the statement of boundaries on both roadways in both the R1 and R2 zones.
Okay. With that explanation in mind, do I have a motion to place that on the floor for consideration?
I'll make that motion too.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second. You're talking about the west side of 517. to
That's
incorporate-
correct, Mr. Shortway.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Shortway. Is there any discussion on this? Please, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but can someone explain this again to me? Because
Yes, what happened, Mike, was when the initial meeting was held, there was confusion in that, I believe that Route 517 was misinterpreted as 565.
Okay.
And that's the way it was licensed or something was issued. And when it was caught, people were kind of flummoxed and said, my God, we got to change this because it was simply a loss of literal interpretation. So now what we're doing is we're simply stating what it actually states, I guess restating it for consideration. Nothing new.
Yeah.
Nothing changed.
Straightened out.
Or we're just straightening it out so there can be no mistake.
I am full support of that, yes.
Okey doke. May I have a roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes,
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And lastly, the consideration of the R1 and R2 zones. It's a strong, strong recommendation from our professionals and our land use board that that only one zone be considered or have it available, be permitted for use. And that would be the R2, and that nothing be permitted in the R1. Is my interpretation correct, Mr. Zelinski?
That's correct. And just to further clarify, not to further clarify, but just to add some additional information, both the current conditional cannabis cultivator licensees looking to operate in the township of Vernon are located in R1 and in R2 zones. So there's one in an R1 and there's one in an R2. But it is the recommendation of the land use board that it not be allowed in R1.
Excuse me, my understanding,
No.
has that changed?
No, Alice, I spoke to Allison today and she said that they're both in the R2 zone. I emailed her and I have her email response.
So how do we want to handle this? The zoning official states that both of these applicants are in an R2 zone. Now, can we make it a conditional approval?
I don't think you can do that conditionally.
Can do that, okay.
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead.
I'm not really in favor of banning the R1s, but why don't we increase the acreage from 6 to 12? That would eliminate just about everybody but a real working farm, and you're still restricting it. You just double the acreage. And I believe both parcels that we just discussed are well over 40 acres.
Are they?
Are they?
I don't know. I would have
Maybe
to,
they've changed, but they're more than 12. I mean, they're large parcels of land.
Don't want to exclude anybody. See, we don't exclude those two. How do we?
I tell you, here's what we.
What happens if there are R1s?
They're both in the R2 from what.
Let's go with the notification and the assurance from our professional that it's both in R2. If we have to go back and look at this again, we can do it. All right, but I think the primary concerns have been addressed and we can go from there, okay?
I think that's a good decision, Mr. Council President, because the land use official is one that has to sign this document. And she's the one who said, no, I can't sign it because of the other thing. So if she says they're both in R2, I hadn't seen that email.
Yeah, I saw that later in the day.
Really?
Mayor Bro, did you share that email from Jessica Colwell about that decision?
Yes, about her advice to the land use board.
Yeah, she actually advised the land use board to approve the ordinance. There was no, to say it didn't conform to the master plan is just not true. There's nothing in the master plan about cannabis. And I read her memo, which summarized the feelings of the land use board, but I also read her email, back to you, suggesting that it did conform to the master plan, and she recommended that the land use board approve it. Now they didn't. I just don't understand how that could have happened.
Different board.
I don't want to confuse things because that's not what
we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to confuse.
Well, it is what we're all talking about, making a motion to remove it from an R1 zone. I'm not in favor.
I mean, Allison just again texted and said they're both in R2 zones.
That's what I was going to tell you.
I know, but like we're making decisions on things without any information. And then we're getting information right at the meeting. It's like, that's just not, it's not reasonable to ask anybody to make a decision just on information that is just provided. It's not, I don't think it's reasonable. This is my opinion.
That's the information.
Here's
Thank you.
my concern about the R1. The
I'm
Grove
sorry.
Farm right before Pochuck Farms, they are applying, or they did apply for the cultivation. They are an R1 and they have plenty of acreage there. That's my concern. If you move the R1, you're cutting them out of it any future to get a license. And then would we be accused of 2 years later when they give out the license, are we spot zoning? Could that argument be made?
And we can always go back and revisit that ordinance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are we spot zoning them?
Yeah, but I think the whole, I understand the situation regarding what they may be planning to do. But I believe the definition of an R1 residential area is that it's a strong residential area. And there is the consideration of those problems that may arise with, the cultivation of cannabis in the R1 zone, which is, I think what the land use board is doing is looking out for those particular concerns.
I agree. I agree, Pat. That's a valid point.
I also think that there's always a way to let's look at it and see if it can be done at a later date. My concern is that there is a timeline, that a very, very strong timeline that the applicants needed to follow. And it was brought to our attention. And we needed to be able to move on this as quickly as possible. Otherwise, there would be could be major financial implications for both the township and these individuals. So,
And why can't we remove the R1 date remove the R1 zone at a later date?
Right.
Why can't we do it at another time, like you're saying?
yeah, we could.
That's what I suggested.
That's what Mr. Lynch
So keep
suggested.
R1 in it, just remove it at a later date,
Okey doke. We
right?
can certainly bring it up then, yeah. So with that in mind, is there any other comments or concerns? No, I'll call for a roll call, please. Oh, just,
This is,
This is the final roll
this is
call.
the final roll call for the R1, R2,
okay.
not for.
Not for the final
not for the-
ordinance.
Not for the ordinance, right?
So is this the roll call to remove R1?
Yes,
Okay.
No,
yes.
I thought we just said we weren't removing R1.
That's
If we're not gonna remove R1, then there doesn't need to be any further amendment.
Okay.
I thought you just agreed.
Oh, because they're both in R2?
Yeah, well, no, right now the ordinance
already in,
allows
yes.
both R2 and R1.
Okay,
Right.
all right, so then we let it,
So we're
We'll let it
keeping,
go.
we're keeping R1 in.
Keeping R1 in,
I
at
knew
a
it was
later
gonna
date, we
come to
can
this.
remove.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're going to revisit this at another time to work on the R1.
thank you.
correct.
All right,
So there's going to be two amendments that have thus far been approved to the ordinance. One is allowing 3 cannabis cultivators in the light industrial zone and a statement clarifying the westbound side of County Road 5.
all right.
Okay.
Those are the 2 amendments that were approved to the ordinance.
All right. So with these amendments, this now requires us to approve this as a first reading on this particular.
Yes, this requires the council now to approve the ordinance with the 2 amendments. If the ordinance is approved with the 2 amendments, this will become the first reading. A new second reading will be scheduled pursuant to the statutory time period. And a public hearing will be held on the ordinance as amended so that the public has the opportunity to express their views with respect to the ordinance.
And Josh, I'll ask my question again. Does this have to go to the land use board?
For these 2 amendments, I do not think so, because you're changing the number of cultivators and you're clarifying what is already in the ordinance with respect to the side of the road. There's no amendments done to the zoning, so I don't believe it has to go to the land use board, and we've already received the land use board's comments.
Right.
Okay.
Do we do this under this number 22-11?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. May I have a motion to have ordinance 22-11 as amended? Ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending section 330-160 entitled the schedule of permitted conditional accessory uses and structures to prohibit farmland assessment on properties where legal cannabis is cultivated.
I'll make a motion.
With the
I'll
motion.
make a
being
motion
made-
to introduce.
Mr. Fury,
Yes.
motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortway. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Oh, that was.
That was a pretty good one. I think we all want to get a
Right.
some adult beverages.
Or some cannabis.
Yeah.
May I have a motion to open the floor for public comments on?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the floor is open to anybody from the public to address the council on any issue they deem necessary. Yes, please come forward, give us your name and your name on the sign-in sheet.
Hi, my name is Eric Card, Highland Lakes. I'd like to put a face to the images you keep hearing of me on the meetings about my problem with trying to get my pool replaced. Really don't know how. I was gonna come in here guns a-blazing, but I'm trying to settle myself on this situation, but I'm beyond livid, okay? This has started back in September 2020. I was advised by the zoning officer that I can remove my pool so I can see how deep I can dig it because I live in Highland Lakes in a rock pile, okay? Then I was told that I couldn't dig the hole because then I would be working without a permit. So I filed a permit in February of 21. 6-7 weeks later, nothing. Nobody knows nothing about my permit, even though I submitted it, gave checks. We moved on to speaking to the mayor about this problem. He says he'll look into it. Another 6 weeks, 7 weeks went by after submitting a second application. Again, mysteriously, the application disappears. When I spoke to the building department head, Bob Westenberg, he told me he gave it to zoning. Zoning seems to not have this permit application. That led us into August. Working with the mayor, spoke to him a couple times about it. He said that he will work through the problem. Please submit another application. We'll take care of it. He'll expedite it. Submitted another application, nothing again. That led me to my first comment I had for you back in, I believe, October or November. Then again in December and January. Then again 2 months ago. Now I finally get to submit another application to the town. I have somebody come in and witness me submitting the application. So now we verify that they actually got the application and we have a receipt now. First one, by the way, I got a receipt. They told me it's in the ordinance that I need to have a survey. I explained to them, I read the ordinance. Ordinance does not require a survey. So after accepting my application, saying she's going to look into it, the zoning officer, and she'll let me know. Well, she lets me know. She takes her full 11 days or so it is. She takes her time and tells me she does not accept the application. Meanwhile, the pool in 2005 was installed with the application, and all the documents that was involved in that one was given the exact same documents. And she explains in the letter that I need a survey. I said, I have a survey. She says, this survey is not acceptable. Signed, sealed from the surveyor stating all boundaries to his professional opinion are correct.
Date of the survey.
The date of the survey was 2000. Pool permit application. Mind you, nothing in the ordinance states a thing about having to have a survey or a current one. Now, after 2 weeks of proving that I have a survey, I'm told now I need a current survey. I'm a little confused because this is a pool replacement. Town certainly takes my money for the taxes for this property that I purchased in 2001. I've bought the original property in 1994, added 2 lots to it in 2000 to 2001 when the lines disappeared. Now, they accepted these for my pool. Now the zoning officer is telling me there's a discrepancy between the distance between the back line of my home, which I'll show you on this. The tax map shows my property is 260 feet long. The so-called alleged printed off the internet, professional AutoCAD software that this is allegedly off of the internet, according to her email, shows my exact foundation, the old pool and the proposed new pool, which mind you is smaller than the original. The original is a 24-foot round. The new one is 7 foot by 14 foot, okay, with a 16 by 24 deck. So I'm actually shortening the distance between here and my far back property line by 8 feet.
All right. At this point, you've exhausted the time. I understand your explanation. I also understand that a member of the council did work with you and try and facilitate your passage and literally walk you through the process. It seemed to me, or from what I understand, that there was some resistance on your part and on what was necessarily required of being done. Now, I don't, you've been in here, we've spoken to you, or you've spoken to us a number of times. A number of checks have been given. You're telling us that none of them have ever been cashed. So I don't know what would happen to those checks. I mean, normally, if
Even showed the council
they're not cashed,
checks.
if they're not cashed, something. Yes. What do you township to do?
Well,
now it has its laws. Those laws apply not only to you, but to everybody else.
Correct.
To waive anything for you would be, of course, a carriage for somebody else. So
there's nothing I would ask you to do.
Okay, so what is it specifically that you need to have done that we can possibly see, working with the business administrator and or the mayor? Mayor, you can handle this.
Absolutely.
To go to the building department and get true resolution of this.
Okay.
That means this, whether you agree with the law or not, if it's stated as an ordinance, it's got to be followed.
Correct.
I don't happen to agree and think I really like the idea of having to pay all the taxes that we're paying, but guess what? Got to do it.
Well, that is correct, and I'm not asking you to do anything that you wouldn't do for anybody else in the town. I'm not asking anybody to do a single thing back. Okay, what is it that you? Ordinance does not require a survey.
Okay, so verification of survey.
Well, the ordinance doesn't require a survey. The only person who requires a survey is your zoning officer. Your zoning officer is saying she wants a survey. After I provide her a survey, she tells me it's not a survey. It's not good enough. She tells me I need a current survey. So the problem I have is to replace a pool, I have to spend anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 to do a $1,300 project just to get a new survey. Mind you, you come and see me every single year to
yeah.
verify that.
Yes, I understand. And, you know, as I said, there are probably people waiting to come up here. So you want a verification of survey and also a clarification of why you need a current survey.
Right, but there's no ordinance that states it.
So I said a clarification of why you.
There's no ordinance that states it. And if she tells me she has to follow the ordinance,
Okay, is there anything else?
I guess so. I guess
Okay,
that's it.
so let me ask you this. If the verification of the survey can be proved,
I have it right here.
no, I don't know
No
what
reason for you needing one.
needing one, okay? And also the reason for a current survey be proven as necessary.
But that's not in the ordinance though, correct?
I have to see the ordinance, you know.
There are regulations that are being satisfied with a new survey.
And how about the uniform?
That I don't follow. It's a book that's this big. So
I think, you know, you may be looking at a survey or an ordinance rather that has been updated, but may not have been included. I don't know. I'd have to look at it myself.
I probably that has not changed for 20 years.
So,
So,
but I'm telling you that, you know, that's what if that's what you want, then I think we can look at this.
okay.
Quite honestly, it's really frustrating, I'm sure, for you to come here and have to go through this. And it's just as frustrating for the council to sit here and say, you know, how can we help this man? You're a citizen of the community. You have every right to expect our help as well as from the administration. But you also are required to follow certain laws. And those things can't change as you might deem necessary.
Absolutely. And I don't expect them
So
to.
good. So as long as we understand that, then we'll end our conversation tonight with this. And I guess the mayor or the business administrator
Definitely not the business manager. Let me hear also.
contact you? Mayor,
Yes, I will.
is there anything else that you want to add to this?
Well, you know why I won't speak to him, so I don't need to go into that with it in detail.
You know what, I most certainly will contact him again, but I don't really know what else I can do. We've had this conversation before. You've also spoken to Mr. Lynch. I really wish you would just get your pool. Just do the survey and get your pool. The summer is coming.
Summer's over by the time the pool's in. But the point is you're making me spend money on property that has not changed. It's a variance based on her opinion of what a 15-foot distance is when that distance is 160 feet away.
Well, you know, the initial survey that you have is not of the property that you have now.
No, that is incorrect.
The survey does not include the lots that you've added.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
That's the survey she showed you. Like I asked in the 2 emails that you didn't answer, was I showed you a copy in that. And I also asked for the copy of the original 2005 because the soil erosion plan that the town made me do and the subdivision is here and the town has it on record. And they're both referred to in 2005.
I'll take another shot at this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carr.
Thank you.
I'll take another shot at this.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Is there anyone else like to come forward? Yes, sir. Mr. Hanson, right?
I just want to thank you for your time.
Yep.
I just wanted to jump back onto topic of getting a memorial placard for Jason Rinker. And again, driving the subject of why he was a hometown hero and deserves to have a memorial placard. And if we can do this, to bring up on topic, when Jason passed away, I was a part of organizing a lot of things. The man that unfortunately had to go leave for his job, Edgar Coy, was a part of that. He organized a short memorial ride from the bicycle shop to there. When I spoke to Aaron from the Ferguson Funeral Home, he said that he has never seen anything of that matter, showing how much support that Jason had. Also, along with that, in the 2021 season, Jason Rinker was put on the photo of the season pass for Mountain Creek Bike Park in tribute to Jason. Mountain Creek also took it a step forward when I reached out to them for not only Jason, but my brother, who was a mountain bike photographer that passed away in 2020 as well. Now, Mountain Creek holds an annual memorial event off of goodwill for both my brother and Jason, showing how much support Jason drove business for Mountain Creek and how important he was in the community. Along with that, throughout the years, Jason supported junior development teams here in Vernon. He wanted to see more athletes come from Vernon. I was one of the first pro mountain bikers to be raised in Vernon to race and wrap up East Coast titles back in 2014 and always been in the top 5 up to 2017 before I pursued a career in the bicycle industry. I think just out of the goodwill of this man that we should have a memorial placard there. And I would love to talk to the mayor and to you guys to how we should get the funding to create a memorial placard and bring it there.
Mr. Council President, may I say this? We have an account open for individuals who'd like to make donations to the town in general and to very specific projects. We do have an account open for the pump track, and we have people who've already donated money and indicated that they're going to donate items. For anyone who donates an item, whether it's a bench, whether it's a different various kinds of things, our plans are to have some kind of little placard. We haven't exactly figured out yet. Chuck and I are working on it. Essentially, what I asked Chuck to do is to find something that's weatherable, because it's going to be on the outside, donated by John Jones, whatever the case might be. If in fact, someone would like to donate something to the park, it could have Jason's name on it. All of the placards we plan to make consistent, nothing bigger than someone else's, but it'll be noticeable. Anybody who uses any of that equipment. For example, we're going to have someone who's going to donate 2 bicycle racks. That's going to hold, I think, 15 bikes or 18 bikes each. We're going to find a way to put a plaque on there. It's going to donate a pump. We have someone who's going to donate some kind of ranch station. So is that what you're asking?
I'm looking for something a little bit more significant than that.
Like what?
I do understand sponsor supports, and we would be more than glad to give sponsor support money. But as you go to tons of other parks, and especially some other pump tracks, if you look, Stevie Smith being a legendary World Cup racer in downhill, passed away. There's a pump track named after him. There's another rider. I can continue the list of pump tracks that are named after him. I'm not looking for to be the Jason Rinker pump track, but below, seeing the Vernon Township Pump Track Center or whatever you guys decide to name it, is that there is a nice memorial placard, just like at playgrounds and other places, in memory of Jason Rinker. Just a separate small placard there for his devotion of running such a successful business and trying to get the kids into this industry. And I do believe that would be something of fair share.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just on another, within the week, we already have gotten over 150 petitions, and I can continue to get this if it makes you guys understand how strong the community is behind Jason Rinker and how strong Mountain Creek supports. And to talk on the other subject, I will say Joe Hessian is an amazing amazing, kind human being that you can take his word for. So for when it comes to that lot that's right next to the Appalachian Hotel, I believe that Joe will do the right thing. And from working from previous establishment to Joe's establishment,
Thank you.
it's much better.
Thank you.
Hey, Pat, this is Mike Fury. I wanted to just add to what Howard mentioned. I was the chair of the Greenway Action Advisory Committee, and we've talked about the trail for a number of years. And we talked about the subject of doing memorials, and we were totally open to this. And this is one of the reasons why we started that fund in order to, to make donations to, in order to make this happen. So I am totally supportive of anything to commemorate. If people want to donate, they donate to this group. And so this was always in the plans of the Greenway Action Committee. This was discussed at several meetings. And we always talked about having these, the opportunity to people who want to do something along the trail, or we didn't talk about the pump track, but we did talk about the trail. So this account does exist. It's there for a reason. You can donate to it, and I'm totally open to the idea of working with any group in order to make that happen.
Thank you.
Do we have any more of these accounts for anything else? This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
It was set up. It was set up a long time. It was set up when Harry was mayor, and when the Greenway Action Advisory Committee was started, and there were some donations made to it. It was specifically for trails, and so some people made donations to it, and then I know that account still exists. So,
Well, when individuals approach me about donating, one of the first things I did, I contacted our attorney just to ensure that we could accept donations. He says yes. The next thing is that I said, well, how do we set up an account for it? And Irene tells me we've got an account set up. Okay, good. And so, I guess to answer your question, I don't know of any other accounts. And the history of this account being set up is something that Mike talked about, but all I really wanted was a vessel by which we could deposit funds for the pump track. And if we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, that's fine. But I don't know the history of it, and I don't know of any other accounts.
Okay.
That's the only one I'm aware of.
So it's one account with different line items, like this is tagged and donated for X.
Yeah.
And so you have a ledger, yeah.
The specific account the mayor's referring to is listed as a recreation trust fund.
Okay, and so people can donate for.
And yeah, you could donate to it with a designation if you chose.
Okay.
Or you can just donate money.
General, yeah.
No one has come to me and said, I want to donate $50 or $100. Individuals have said, we want to donate these specific items for the pump track. We had two individuals that come to us and said, we'd like to donate money for the sign. And my plans had been, based on what I can authorize as mayor, this is going to be a municipal park and pump track. So the sign would look just like the sign from Maple Grange Park, just like the sign from Veterans Park. No sign named Howard Burrell Memorial Park, anybody. It was going to be the sign we had. It was going to be a town center park and pump track. That's what I was going to name it, just based on that I could do as mayor. But the council now has passed a resolution saying they want this to be called the Vernon Township Youth Memorial Park and Pump Track. I guess we could put that on sign. We'd have to go back to our sign maker and see it's going to be different in terms of.
He hasn't completed the other one already, though. I said, I hope he has not completed the other one already, because last week we authorized him to move forward with that name. I didn't know the council was putting this on tonight.
Yeah, I didn't. So we'll have to see.
I guess let's continue the public comments. If we're.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. We got a little sidetracked there. That's all that happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick comment just based on what the information that you just provided. So today it was presented to us that you guys would now vote on what it would be called. But I'm a little confused as to why the sign was already being made and approved of by last week before this meeting happened.
Two different things. A sign was being suggested, as the mayor pointed out. This resolution tonight, we knew nothing about. That's why I'm saying I might have to call the sign maker, tell them that we have to cancel that sign.
Okay, so initially that there wasn't going to be a vote whatsoever on what the sign was.
The sign was going to be a very generic sign.
Generic, yes.
It's just, like Maple Grange Park.
Yeah.
A town, it was, nothing. And that I can do as mayor. What I can't do, or what I won't do, even if I could, I would not make a decision unilaterally to name the park or anything after any particular person, any particular group. Even if I could do that, as mayor, I wouldn't do it because it's just not, I don't think it's good government. I would have to bring the council into that. So the sign that we were considering and in time to have it, going to be a very generic kind of sign. So what Mr. Volker is saying is that we had proceeded to ask our sign maker to make a very generic sign. We'll have to see where he is on making that sign. Hopefully he hadn't started, because now the council has said Vernon Township Youth Memorial Park and Pump Track. I don't have any problem with that thing, not at all. It just, I didn't know this was coming, and but.
I think that it's also important to, like what you guys bring it back to the people and having the people be a part of decisions, and especially something that's going to change the lives of youth. This is an extremely important thing that I've seen mountain bikes and bikes in general change youth. I mean, Port Jervis Pump Track, you guys are probably familiar with it. I started going there a few years ago when it first opened, and there was a young boy that smoked pack of cigarettes a day, was always, looked like he was on something. And I came back 4 weeks later, he completely quit smoking cigarettes. He was drug-free. He told all the kids, hey, you're wearing a helmet, you're not going to ride. So I've seen the lives being changed. So I think that it's really important to have the community come together and be able to, show the impact and have that representative. I understand that it can be more difficult to make decisions based on, making signs and things like that when you have other people involved. But I do hope that you guys take into consideration the petition that we do have to potentially add that to the sign and have in memory for someone that really impacted the community and initially wanted to support a pump track 10 plus years ago. So thank you, everyone.
Can you give me your name, please?
Yes, Alexis Franklin.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anything from the skybox?
Sean Clarkin.
Mr. Clarkin?
Yes, hi, how are you again?
Good, thank
All
you.
right, well, I have a list here, but I'm gonna bounce off what the young lady just spoke about. Once again, we have our mayor going off rogue, making signs before the council has a chance or the citizens of Vernon have a chance. So I'd be curious to see how much money we wasted making a sign that the mayor moved ahead with without anybody's approval. Now, starting at the top of my list, I'd like to see or hear in the next meeting, possibly a Mountain Creek update. What's the status of us co-signing the loan for Mountain Creek to have their dam fixed that's on state land? I'd like to know what the status of that is. I'd also like to know what the status of the radio tower. Remember the property that Mayor Burl sold? I'd like to know what's happening with that. Okay, these items are not going to be allowed to be swept under the carpet. The mayor's mistakes are going to be brought up repeatedly. And as a citizen, I'd like to know what's happening. Perhaps you could post something on the website, something. Tell us what's going on. As far as the Norwood property, $6 million, okay? Somehow they advertised that property, apparently, and they found a buyer. That buyer is paying some sum of money to somebody, okay? The buyer is not taking the property for free. So there's a sum of money that a buyer is paying, and somebody responsible or the ownership, the person who owes you the $6 million, is taking the money that that buyer is putting up to purchase the property. Okay. In the world of real estate, if somebody owes you money and they don't pay you, you can go take their property away from them. So why hasn't the town that's owed $6 million gone after the property and taken the property in lieu of their $6 million? All right. I see time after time, we're dropping the ball. And why isn't the attorney bringing this to your attention? Why does it have to be a local real estate agent without a law degree telling you how you get your money? Where is your legal representation? All right. And now, not for nothing, but this is also the attorney who told you to continue hammering private citizens for the vacant land code until we get sued. All right. This is the same attorney, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So we touched on the $6 million. We touched on the fact that somebody's paying money to buy that property. And one last item we're looking at here, the attorneys that are closing that transaction, okay, that are changing the ownership of the Norwood property from the person who owed you $6 million to the person who's buying it, those attorneys know where the current owner of the Norwood property is. And those people will be showing up to collect their money, all right? These are issues that should be the citizens of Vernon need the administration of this town to get on their tippy toes and start getting things done, because there's mistake after mistake after mistake that's happening, and we're sitting around watching the mayor fumble again. All right. Thank you very much for letting me run down my list. I'm looking to see some big changes here. Okay. And I'm sorry to be one of those voices that you listen to all the time, but I got a list of 6 items here. And just to cap off, because my 5 minutes aren't up, I need to know what the status is of Vernon going on the hook to co-sign a loan to have a dam built on state land for Mountain Creek. Everybody clear on that? Everybody remember that? I'd like to know what's going on with it. And in addition to that, I would like to know what's happening with the radio tower. Is the mayor able to get control of the radio tower? Have we worked out an arrangement? Did we buy the property back for double what they paid for it? I'd also like to know how it happened. How many I understand there's council members that are friends with the person who purchased the property. All right. There's some shady business going on here, guys. I'd like to know what's going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes. Bill Table Setter.
Mr. Table Setter?
I want to congratulate the council for finally, after 6 months, passing a resolution allowing cannabis and allowing cannabis dollars to be finally sent into the coffers of our town. It's about time. I'm looking for you guys to allow retail sales, but we'll take the cultivation to begin with. So thanks. That's 2 thank yous tonight.
Thank you. Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Peg DeStassi.
Ms. DeStassi.
Good evening. I have some questions on the bill list, but I'm going to summarize it by simply saying that there are items on that list that are not being publicly disclosed, and I'm not sure that they should be there. There's a catch basin, there's asphalt, there's tree removal. If these are items that are going to that pump track or the trail, they should not be being paid by public taxpayers' dollars. Number 2, I still have questions about the accuracy of the appraisal company due to the excessive tax refunds that are being posted each month. This has never happened before the new appraisal program was put in place. I think this needs to be looked at. It's costing us a tremendous amount of money in legal fees. I agree with Sean Clarkin. We need answers to previously disclosed situations. The mayor has things to answer for, and there never seems to be an answer presented. In addition, I am opposed to any salary increases for anybody at this time. My main concern is how can a vote be taken on an ordinance 22-13 when the info was not received by all of the council members? How could they vote on this? They don't know the information. That to me is inexcusable. I am not opposed to a change of government, but we need to have a public meeting to discuss this before the November election. It's quickly approaching us, and we need to schedule some meetings to see how the town feels. Now, as far as the cannabis, I agree with limiting it to 3, but I feel we should not open the floodgates any further. Let's try it out and see how it works out. Ordinance 2210 was approved a couple meetings ago for $975,000. When I asked what roads were being were being dealt with, I was told, we don't know. It's an amount it was amount that was given to us. Well, if an amount was determined, was it pulled out of the air? I would suggest that they knew the amount that they wanted and they have the calculation, in which case it should be publicly disclosed. My main concern is that are they redirecting these funds to be used on Black Creek or the trail? When I asked that question, I was told, well, we don't know. That's not acceptable to me. I have reviewed the email log for the last month, and I see consistently that the mayor communicates with many people, but never CCs the town council, keeping them abreast of township activities. I think the council needs to be abreast of what's going on, and the mayor has an obligation to do that. Now, in response to the error that was caused under Mayor Shortway's term, I'm more concerned about that it doesn't repeat itself. We need to look at what is causing the lack of follow-ups on fines and zoning violations. There must be a correction in the system. Brian is correct. We should not release the fine until they demolish the units. An amendment should be added to the resolution. It's just another example of inept government and not follow through. I am opposed to the Vernon Youth Memorial naming of the park. I agree the name of the park should be a town decision, not done by anybody. It is a town park. It should be named by the town. Now, as far as the mayor, I know personally he was notified by not only Sally Rinker, but many others not
Thank
to
you
move
very
forward
much.
with the sign. And
Mrs.
he
DeStassi,
ignored that request.
Your time has expired.
Okay,
Thank
one
you.
last thing I would just like to say, the recreational trust fund should be put on the website and disclosed to the public. Nobody knows about it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Rizzuto. Finish off my thoughts from before about Northway and the hole in the pipe gang. And it just had to do with a comparison of legal fees that the town forgave to the various entities who are the same. and have been around forever. And because the township attorney, or one of the township attorneys, did not file a lien on the property, it allowed a sale to go through, and the money went from one private individual or one company to another company.